Coming up on November 7th, there will be a special election in Goodyear. The ballot will include 3 questions related to city bonds. Bonds are used to fund large projects. The bonds proposed on the ballot would be used to pay for key traffic improvements, public safety, and parks projects. Ready to learn more about the election? Visit goodyearaz.gov/bond election for more details, the latest information, and important election dates. Welcome to the Goodyear City Council meeting. We're excited to have you be a part of this important public process. Tonight, you will have the opportunity to address City Council on both non-agenda and agenda items. You must fill out a speaker request card in order to address the City Council. The agendas and speaker request cards are located in the back of the council chambers. Please drop your completed card in the tray next to the blank speaker cards. If the meeting has already begun, please hand it to the city employee at the back of the room. You may check the "I do not wish to speak" option on the card. This allows you to still voice your opinion on an item on the record without having to speak. In accordance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, please contact a staff member if you need any assistance. Public comment on a non-agenda item will take place during the citizen comment portion of the evening. These are items that don't appear on tonight's formal agenda. The city clerk will call your name when it's time for you to speak. At that time, please approach the podium and tell us your name for the record. You'll have a maximum of 3 minutes. The timer is on the screens visible from the podium. Note that you may also choose not to speak if other speakers before you have said what you wanted to say. Shouting, cheering, and loud noises will not be tolerated, and violators may be removed for disrupting the meeting. Goodyear City Council meetings stream live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and online at goodyearaz.gov. Follow the city's social media pages so you don't miss out on all that's happening in Goodyear. Thank you for coming to this meeting and being an active part of your city. And remember, it's a great time to be in Goodyear.
I'd like to call the regular meeting to order for October 30th, 2023. Go ahead and everybody's got their calendars marked present. City clerk, to say, everybody's here?
Everybody's here,
Except
but just to note that Vice Mayor Kano is on the phone.
I got that. So with that, please join Councilmember Stipp in the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Almighty God, pour out your Holy Spirit on your faithful people. Keep us steadfast in your grace and truth. Protect and deliver us in times of temptation. Defend us against all enemies, and grant to our city your saving peace. Father, we seek your grace and strength in these uncertain times and pray for peace throughout this troubled world. We ask that you keep watch over the men and women serving our community, our state, and our nation. Be with them in all they do. Amen.
Thank you there, Councilmember Stipp. Now is the time for citizens who would like to address the City Council on any non-agenda items within the jurisdiction of City of Goodyear. Any speaker cards?
Yes, Mayor. We have Brian McCarty.
Come on up. Hi, Brian. The council will listen to comments, may take one of any following action: respond to criticism, request the staff investigate and report on the matter, request that the matter be scheduled on a future agenda. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes, you know that, and the red light will let you know when you're getting close, so go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for having us again. For the record, I am a Goodyear resident. My name is Brian McCarty. My colleagues and I have appeared before you several times to express our neighborhood's displeasure with the repetitive noise from the Goodyear Airport. Last week, during the Goodyear City Work Session, residents expected to hear concrete ways to mitigate the aircraft noise and improve the quality of life for the thousands of residents that live below the airport traffic pattern. Several of us in the audience, including an FAA safety team representative and a representative from the Phoenix Aviation Safety Advisory Group did not seem to walk away with a sense of support for local residents affected by long hours of droning aircraft. The airport manager, Mr. Hagan, pointed out in the meeting that the Goodyear Airport had one sentence on noise abatement procedures and 2 sentences in the Goodyear Pilot Guide, the first being avoid low-level flight activity over residential areas. Most airports, as you know, have extensive education on noise abatement and a list of local policies that lessen the impact on surrounding communities. For example, the Scottsdale Airport has 15 recommended procedures to reduce noise. Goodyear has about 3. Also, despite the comments at the work group by Mr. Feld that, quote, the lowest I've seen through this area is 800 to 900 feet, we have documented many cases with his office of aircraft 500 to 600 feet above the ground and as low as 285 feet above our houses. In fact, I brought 35 of those complaints and responses from Mr. Feld's office. I'd like to submit them to you through Mr. Fair later. Myself and my neighbors recognize the importance of the airport and the flight schools. Like Elon Musk and Beyonce, we're fans of the airport. But the residents of Palm Valley are committed to formalizing voluntary noise abatement procedures at Goodyear and have the city of Phoenix track deviations from these procedures. The largest flight school has not honored their verbal agreement to fly south of Interstate 10 or above 1,000 feet. In fact, I brought a screenshot that I'd also like to submit to you of an aircraft that departed prior to sunrise this morning, flew over Goodyear 25 times for 2 hours and 26 minutes, and never departed Goodyear. This is not what the Goodyear residents deserve. It's not fair, and they shouldn't have to endure this. Finally, we're appreciative of the dialogue between the city of Phoenix and the flight schools, but it's not enough. We're not here to push the noise somewhere else or move the traffic pattern or do anything like that. I promise you, we're not there. But we are here to educate the flight school's leadership on how to be good neighbors. But we need your help. We need your help to engage the flight schools, to talk to them. Get up tomorrow and go down there and talk to the big flight schools down there and tell them the concerns of your residents. We would so much appreciate that. For the peaceful enjoyment and safety of all that live below the traffic pattern, this should be a high priority item on your agenda. And thank you again for your time and attention to this matter. It's good to see you again.
Thank you. Go ahead and, if you would, give that to. Anything else?
Yes, Mayor. Dave Vaca.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name's Dave Vaca. I've been a resident of Goodyear for 10 years. Love the city. It's great. This is a very nice building. I'm here tonight to voice concern on the request for voter approval of the $135 million bond proposal. The endorsements that are stated in the pamphlet mention they are needed to reduce traffic congestion, address the growing number of cars citywide, and that roadways are at or near failing condition during peak travel time, rush hour, which every city in America gets the enjoyment of. It also mentions bridges, but all these reasons can be attributed to growth. The city website has a video on this bond issue that says additional lane miles are needed, again, growth related. Now, you have an agenda item tonight, consent agenda item number 6, under fiscal impact states, all new development will have an ongoing fiscal impact on the city. The development is responsible for construction of all infrastructure necessary to serve the site and will generate one-time revenue for the city through payment of permits, construction sales tax, and development impact fees. Yet your draft LUA and IIP dated October 16th, 2023 proposes 0 street impact development fees. If $135 million is truly needed for new lane miles, and a council report states developer impact fees are a revenue source that are the responsibility of development, then why is city management recommending 0 street impact fees? I think the citizens deserve better, better use of our tax dollars. Let growth pay for growth. Don't put that burden on the back of citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Street, want to
Keeney.
check with him? He'll talk to you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
One more, Mayor.
One more? Go ahead.
James Gordon.
Welcome, James.
Thank you.
You heard the scoop. Go ahead and give your name, residence. And,
Yes.
You have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. My name is James Gordon, and I'm a resident of Goodyear. You don't need the address now, do you?
Nope, don't need that.
Okay, thank you. I'm here to also comment on the increasing amount of noise from the airport over our home in Goodyear. We've lived here for several years, and we moved here because we said Goodyear is a good place to live. And let's settle here and, end our careers in the city of Goodyear. And so this summer I had my grandson over and teaching him how to swim. He's 6 years old. And he's in the pool. He said, Granddad, he says, there's a noisy town you have out here. And he says, maybe this town of Goodyear should change its name to Bad Year, because we're having a bad year here in the swimming pool. And so I thought about that, and I said, you know what, son? I'm gonna look into this and see what's going on. So along with Paul and along with Brian and John and others who are looking at this issue, we went to the FAA meeting last week. We were here this last week as well to your meeting and listening to the FAA talk to you about the noise in the community. And as I listened, I said to myself, well, it's interesting, the FAA is here defending what they want to have happen, and that is to reduce the amount of traffic they have at their airport and bring it out here. And then I hear people saying, well, let's have a $100 hamburger, and I'm not pointing fingers, but I've been flying for 30 years, and we used to do the $100 hamburger, but now that hamburger is $450 because of the price of things. And, people saying I have a conflict on the new runway because, hey, that runway is might be something my business wants to get involved in, or things that really didn't sort of address the issue of noise for me. And so that's why I'm all in. I've talked to my neighbors, and they're all concerned, but what do? I don't know how to get on the telephone or get on the computer and raise a complaint. So sure, you get 3 people making a lot of complaints because people just don't know how to do it. But I have to say, some of the probative questions you were asking, I said, boy, they're perfect to set up the FAA to kind of respond to some ideas that would reduce the problem. Now, I've been flying for 30 years and have my own airplane, and I know what happens in these small airports. And so the town of Buckeye is saying, we're not putting a runway in here, and the town of over here in Glendale saying, we're not putting a runway over. So why is the town of Goodyear doing that? So I have to say to you, think about it. There are plenty of solutions out there. There are areas that you haven't covered, and one of those areas is sustainability. A lot of pollution coming down on our head. It's all 100% lead fuel. So I have other ideas here that I'd love to share with you. Thank you so much.
Is Justin? Where's
Yeah,
Justin?
Mr.
Justin
Ferris
in the
in the
back.
back.
Would you pass it on to Justin in the back there by the door?
Okay.
Your suggestions?
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much. Thank you.
I have a question, Mr. Gordon.
Yes.
Are you in the same street that Mr. McCarty is?
No.
We need your address.
Okay. Yeah, I'm near the golf course. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, folks. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
No, Mayor.
Okay. Justin will take care of that back there. With that, will the city clerk please read the consent agenda, items 1 through 7 by title only?
Number 1, approval of minutes. Number 2, authorize the city manager to execute the amendment to the effluent discharge agreement between the city of Goodyear and Buckeye Water Conservation and Drainage District. Number 3, approve capital improvement plan CIP project 61014 Goodyear Water Reclamation Facility 9.5 MGD expansion and authorize related budget amendments. Number 4, adopt resolution number 2023-2361 authorizing acceptance of a grant award from the Arizona Department of Administration for $344,080 for the Goodyear Fire Department for a fire incident management system, authorizing the city manager to execute all documents relating to the grant award and authorizing a budget transfer to allow for the expenditure of the grant. Number 5, adopt ordinance number 2023-1596, amending Chapter 11, Article 11-1, offenses of Goodyear City Code, providing for correction, severability, penalties, and an effective date. Number 6, approve the final plat of Avion at Ballpark Village, Phase 2, subject to stipulations. Number 7, authorize the execution of a fiber optic easement agreement across city right-of-way.
Thank you. Does anybody on the council wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Seeing none, will the council please enter a motion and a second to approve item 1 through 7? I got a motion and a second. Go ahead and open up the voting. And you still on there, Vice Mayor?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Hey, you're coming through crystal clear. Could you let me know what your vote is?
I vote aye.
Thank you. Passes 7-0. Thank you. We have 5 public hearings tonight. The first public hearing is to consider rezoning north and east of northeast corner of Citrus and Indian School Road. Open the public hearing. Please introduce yourself to the public.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Steve Careccia, Planning Manager. The first public hearing before you tonight is a rezoning. Where we're at tonight, right here, this is Citrus Road, Indian School Road. We're at the northeast corner, about 32 acres right here. Surrounding this property, we have to the north, Able Ranch, a single-family residential development. Proceeding from north, heading south, final plat for this portion right here was approved in September. Wrapping around to the east, we have industrial development here, a couple buildings proposed here. Wrapping around to the south of Indian School Road is the Microsoft facility and the substation. We have farming here on state land. And then here to the west across Citrus, Sadea community, about 640 acres, 1,168 homes or so. This area right here is one of the commercial corners within Sadea, about 18 acres, currently undeveloped at this time. As the site has access on Citrus and Indian School, it will have a couple access points on Citrus and about 3 on Indian School Road. And then something else I should point out that is on this map, a significant feature, is as you see this line here, kind of wrapping down, heading to the west. This is for Luke Air Force Base. There's 65 decibel noise contour line right here. So everything to the west of this line, low density residential is what is set forth. Everything to the east of this line, no residential is permitted. It needs to be non-residential, some kind of light industrial, commercial, something low assembly type uses. So this is that line right here. And so that property in the general plan is designated as business and commerce. And that designation, that's for the growth and development of our economic base. Within the business and commerce, some appropriate zoning districts are commercial, high-density residential, as well as light industrial. And also because of it is within that 65 noise contour line, it's within a new loop-compatible land use overlay. And within the general plan, this overlay encourages non-residential uses such as industrial. A little bit of history on this parcel. November 2007, as part of a 41-acre rezone from ag and planned area development to C2. It was planned to be part of the commercial development with Able Ranch. However, at this time, the property remains undeveloped. So the request tonight is to rezone 32 of those 41 acres from C2 and I1. The remainder, not necessarily as large as 9, it's probably more like 5, will remain C2. So the hard corner there will remain commercial. Developers plan, commercial center and business park. Right now, they have a conceptual site plan submitted, shows 4 buildings ranging in size from 29,000 square feet to roughly 271,000 square feet. Max building height in the I1 zone is 50 feet. With this site plan, and I'll show that exhibit in the next slide, north-south alignment of the buildings, internalized truck courts. So with this plan, you'll see all the trucks and docks facing internally. Nothing will be facing any of the roadways or proposed residential development. And so this is the site plan that was included with the rezoning. Here are the 4 buildings. The smallest here, about 28,000 square feet. As we head east, they do get larger. This is the largest building, about 270,000 square feet. Again, that north-south arrangement of the buildings with an internalized truck court between these two buildings and these two buildings here. Access to the site, we are showing 2 here right now, and then 3 here. And this is that commercial area, about 5 acres. That's not a part of the rezone, but will remain C2. So commercial uses here, surrounded by the light industrial uses here. With this access point here, you see this drive here. This will be shared with the future Able Ranch development, this final plat that got approved a couple months ago. And here you will see some buffering proposed, which I'll have a slide later that will go show this in a little better detail. And so with the staff review of this rezoning and looking at what could be proposed given the I-1 zoning, there were some concerns and things we wanted to work with the applicant on. One of the staff concerns was, could one large building be put here on the site? Without any stipulations, yes, that could, but staff and the applicant, we did work together. Right now we're stipulated there has to be at least 3 buildings on site. Right now they're showing 4. Should plans change, they could reduce that to 3. And no one building can be larger than the 270,000. So that's the max cap for any building on these 32 acres. The truck courts, those will have to remain. And as you can see here, we're stipulating 2 additional trees and a larger buffer. We worked with the applicant to ensure there were increased buffers along that north boundary shared with Able Ranch. Also worked with the applicant to provide 13-foot high walls on the north side to, again, keep the noise from the trucks, the truck courts inside, and so it doesn't trespass into the neighborhood to the north. And again, work with the applicant to have those on both truck courts. And also, those walls will include materials and colors from the building, so they will look like an actual part of the building versus just an add-on piece. And also stipulated, we worked with the applicant, that north drive shared with Able Ranch, there'll be no parking or such of trucks or trailers on that area. All the truck parking, maneuvering will occur within the truck courts. And so here we are. This is that exhibit looking a little closer at this buffer area. So this is Able Ranch here, and this is what the large truck court here in between the 2 large buildings. What the applicant would initially proposed here was this double row of trees here. Staff worked with the applicant and they agreed to extend this double row of trees, so about a 50-foot buffer. To the west, 3 parking sections, so to about here, and also to the east, 3 spots, so again, to about here. So in this location, all here, adjacent to Able Ranch, you'll have about a 50-foot buffer with a double row of trees here. And also here, this exhibit here shows, this is kind of the configuration of the wing walls. They'll come out from the building, head along here, as well as here, and these will be 13 feet tall. And again, this exhibit just shows some of the distance. You have about 160 feet or so from this lot here to the edge of the parking here, and about 175 feet from this lot over to about this corner here. At a rezone, we're not necessarily approving buildings at this time, the elevations, but this is what the applicant is proposing at this time. Building height's a little over 50 feet, or 40 feet, excuse me, so they're not quite at the 50-foot max, but you can see kind of some of the design architecture, the colors that the developer is proposing at this time. And so as a rezone through the public hearing process, there are certain requirements that we have to follow for neighborhood notification to meet all our requirements. Staff did comply with all requirements for the citizen review process and our public hearings. In response to the initial citizen review, we did receive 5 inquiries from the public opposed to this proposal. Some of the reasons why we're listing here. Also want to note that on October 18th, we went before the Planning and Zoning Commission. At that hearing, we had 8 residents speak on this item, 1 in favor, 7 against. And again, those reasons opposed, similar to here: loss of commercial zoning, overbuilding of industrial, increased traffic, noise, light, trespass. But as part of our review, the staff review, and looking at the criteria in our zoning ordinance and looking at the stipulations that the applicant did agree to, we did find that the rezoning did meet our criteria. We did find it was consistent with the business and commerce land use, which does support a light industrial zoning district. Also found it was consistent with the Luke overlay in terms of keeping that area free of residential and assembly type uses. We did find it supportable given the stipulations that the applicant agreed to that allowed for increased compatibility between the industrial and the proposed single family to the north. And at their hearing, the Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval subject to all of the stipulations within the draft ordinance. With that, Mayor, Council members, that concludes my presentation. Available for questions. The applicant is here, and they also have a presentation they would like to make to the council.
Okay, why don't you go ahead and grab a seat? I'm sure there'll be some other questions. The applicant, would you like to do a presentation?
Yes, please.
Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Ed Bull, 1850 North Central. I'm here on behalf of Southwest Next. With me from Southwest Next this evening is Nico Howard and Michaela Forrest. We have others here as well, Allie Bull from my office and so on, which can help me with questions when you ask those questions that are way beyond my pay grade.
Yes.
In any event, we are pleased to be here with your both staff's and Planning Commission's recommendations for approval. We accept stipulations 1 through 27. We're not requesting any modifications to any of those stipulations. And those stipulations, which we'll get into a little more detail on, assure some of the compatibility insurance of transitions and buffers and other kinds of things that were important in discussions with staff and neighbors. Without repeating everything that Steve said, the site is outlined in black. We purposefully have retained this 4 or 5 acre corner that is zoned C2, and as Steve indicated, there's, I think it's 18 acres of C2 kitty corner across, or right across the street from us at the northwest corner of Citrus and Indian School. The site, as Steve indicated, is located on what I refer to as the noisy side of the 65 line associated with Luke. I want to emphasize to your council, like we did at the Planning Commission, we are absolutely not anti-Luke by any way, stretch of the imagination. But importantly, as you know, and as Steve indicated in his comments, no residential is allowed on the noisy side of the 65 line. In addition to that, this council is very aware of the graduated density concept, or GDC, which limits the residential density in the area. Those things, along with size of the site, other opportunities on other sites, are very real factors in why it is that this site is not viable for the commercial development that the existing zoning would call for. When you stop and think about it, this would call for about a 36-acre shopping center. A 36-acre shopping center on a site that does not have a 360-degree trade area and never will have a 360-degree trade area. It will not develop with C2 uses. However, this site, as you know, has purposefully retained the C2 corner. We just generically show it preliminarily designed with a C-store and a gas station. That cannot happen as of right. If that goes forward, it would require a use permit that would come back through the public hearing processes. But at the Planning Commission hearing, we heard some desires for things like a bank or a drugstore or other uses like that. NECO's very open to talking with those users if the users would be interested in this site, or of course they could go over on Sedea's commercial corner. But it's not that those kinds of uses couldn't go here. It's just there's no way that this is going to be a 30-plus acre shopping center. Importantly, the way that this is laid out is an employment center. It's an employment center that purposefully transitions from west to east. As Steve was talking about, these buildings on this conceptual plan are much smaller than what would occur over to the east. This is pretty intense industrial to the east of us and to the northeast of us, Microsoft to the south. These are smaller buildings. Importantly, any truck-associated activities are centralized in these buildings, and importantly centralized in this building. The stipulations that are a part of the draft ordinance in front of you confirm those kinds of building orientations, where truck courts can occur, where they can't, where truck parking can occur, where it can't. It's locked into those stipulations, even if this employment center site does not develop with this actual layout. The work with staff has been ongoing, and some of it was predicted on what good compatibility would be. It had to do with building things we were talking about, building orientation, buffers, and so on, including in this area and including over here on the west as well. When we look at this site, while a lot of the stipulations concern this northern edge, it's also important, I believe, to keep in mind that our neighbor to the immediate west, while we have nothing but respect for Sedea and the neighbors within Sedea, our immediate neighbor to the west, as Steve pointed out, is commercial. The nearest home to NECO's site is, I believe, 650 feet away, more or less, to the northwest of this site. The buffer area that Steve was talking about with the double row of trees and the 13-foot screen walls and so on is in this area. We can elaborate on that more, but I think Steve did a better job than I with his exhibits of showing how this double row of trees will stretch to the east and stretch to the west. Again, all of that is locked in on the stipulations that are in your draft ordinance. This cross-section shows that the nearest house is, nearest house would be 160 feet away from the nearest industrial building. In between there, you have screen walls, landscaping, drive aisle, double row of trees, another wall, more setback area, and so on. So there are substantial buffers there. And if we go back and look at the site plan itself, you'll see similarly on the east side of Citrus, this is preliminarily designed with not only smaller buildings here, but it's anticipated there'd be a double row of parking. So with commercial to the west, residential to the northwest, you have Citrus, landscaping, double row of parking, drive aisle, more landscaping in front of the building. So it is well transitioned and well buffered. We had a acoustical consultant who some of you are familiar with do the analysis. This is focused on future residential to the north. He concluded that with the walls and separations we're talking about, the noise levels here would be typical or quieter than the average Arizona noise level in a residential neighborhood. Steve talked about that. Importantly, when we go through this list, and with this being not viable for a commercial center, then I-1 makes perfect sense. As an employment center, it creates jobs. We conform to the general plan. Not only is the conceptual site plan not showing mega warehouses. We're showing smaller buildings, multiple buildings with a cap on maximum square footage. That's in the stipulations. And obviously it generates jobs and revenues. We have retained some C2. I can talk about uses if you want that are associated with that. We know that in any hearing, there's always questions or concerns with streets and traffic. The traffic trip comparison indicates that if this somehow, some way, were a 30-plus acre shopping center, it would generate about 3 times the amount of traffic that this particular plan is expected to generate. In addition to that, there's a number of stipulations. You know, it's 14, 15, 16, 17, 19, and some others that have to do with street improvements and medians and other kinds of things like that that are woven into the stipulations. And then the transition and buffers are not just things to talk about, but they're locked in stipulations 4, 6, 7, 9, and some others, which lock in the kinds of things that Steve talked about and I've referenced. So the ordinance that's in front of you is consistent with the general plan. It makes good planning sense, and it's reflective of a tremendous amount of work with staff to make this a good, viable, and compatible development. Steve mentioned neighborhood outreach, and I want to emphasize that normally notices would go out to 500-foot property owners and a donut 500 feet around the site. We didn't stop there. Those notices went out, as they always do, from the city, but we also went door to door to the closest homes in Sedea. Some were home and willing to talk, some weren't interested in talking, and that's fine. We were aware of 2 who'd contacted the city. We weren't aware of the 5 until the Planning Commission hearing, but went back out and contacted them. One was interested in meeting and talking, and he went from opposition to support. One was opposed and was not interested in meeting, and that's fine. We can't force our way into somebody's kitchen table. But importantly, the one who made the time to sit down and learn about the development and the alternatives and the street improvements and other things went from opposition to support. But we didn't stop there, and that we met some people at the Planning Commission hearing and afterwards who'd expressed concerns to the Planning Commission. And we asked anyone who was willing to give us their contact information, and Tom Bilstein and his wife Kirsta followed up with those that we had contact information for. And those who were interested in talking, we talked with. So very much we went above and beyond, and NECA was insistent on going above and beyond to get to the point of providing information to people who were interested in hearing it. And that information, as you know, includes not only a tremendous amount of outreach, but a tremendous amount of work with staff and neighbors who wanted to talk about some of the mitigation efforts that could be made and are stipulated to in the ordinance in front of you. We appreciate the recommendations. We request your approval accordingly. If you have questions or if you want me to respond afterwards.
There'll be
I'll
questions
happy to.
afterwards, so, go ahead and have a seat there, Ed. And
Thank you.
do that. Let me, okay, go ahead.
Randy Higgs.
Oh, Randy, you heard the prior, just your name and that you're a Goodyear resident. You got 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Yeah, excuse me. My name's Randy Higgs. I live in Sedalia, and I'm just here to oppose this project. We don't need to change to light industrial. There's commercial over there. It's working well. We keep hearing the aspect of, excuse me, it won't work for industrial. It won't work for commercial. Nobody will be there. Excuse me. But lo and behold, in the last 3 years, between Citrus, Camelback down to the prison, from Indian School to the 303, we've got 18 warehouses been built in the last 3 years and 2 under construction now in that one little strip. And I'm not against him making money, that's what it's all about, but he can do it with commercial and he don't need to have light industrial over there. It's crazy. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, yeah, you might not have done it. Obviously, it was farm country. But with what's going on now and all the businesses coming in, it's proven fact that somebody can make some money there because all them warehouses went in. I'm just opposed to light industrial, not so much the warehouse itself. But that's where I stand as a resident. So there you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next,
Ken Hubble.
Hi, Ken Hubble. I'm a resident of Goodyear. So as the developer talked about some of the concerns, I'll reinforce those. One is the noise that the trucks would generate and the increased amount of traffic. Another was the pollution that we talked about, the air pollution, the light pollution, and then the devalued property in Sadeo. Now, this is going to negatively affect our house values in that area. It's not very attractive to have the warehouses so close to the development. One of the main things that I'd like to address that I would ask the council to take a look at is the quality of life, how this negatively affects the quality of life for our residents. Commercial, the way it is presently zoned, would give the chance to have things there that would be a value of the residents versus warehouses. As previously stated, we have lots of warehouses in the area. We believe that west of the 303, our part of Goodyear and Sadea has been neglected as far as development goes for what the residents would need. The residents of Sadea and Able Ranch, once it's built, is not going to be more warehouses. It's going to be commercial, things that we can use on a day-to-day basis. I would ask that we also consider community needs. What does the community need right now? I see parks being built in different areas. I do see some commercial, but in our area, we're looking at warehouses. We do not agree with that. I would believe that the small commercial area left on the corner there, that this would also, the proposed warehouses would further degrade the chance to develop that as any commercial business right there in the corner, as commercial businesses need to be able to have more traffic. We're concerned about the construction phase. If the warehouses are approved, the amount of traffic right now on Indian School, which is still, the roads are degraded, and that would severely negatively affect for a long time during the construction phase. We want the traffic that retail would bring versus the large industrial truck traffic that large industrial warehouses would bring also. So we're against that. Some of the buffer areas on the north side by the Able Ranch development, if I was an Able Ranch developer, I would not want industrial warehouses that close to that area. So we ask that we keep the general plan zoning, which is commercial, and not approve the change to light industrial. Again, this is in mind with what residents need and what our vision for Goodyear is, and not being known as a community of warehouses. Appreciate your consideration.
thank you.
Thank you.
Next,
Charles Summer.
My name is Charles Summer. I live in Sedella. I've been there for 5 years. And I do think it's a good move to change this. And the reason I do is it's my understanding that the developer is the one that has to pay for the improvements on the streets. And right now, Indian School is half closed off. We have a stop sign. It's sitting there, and it's traffic nearly a mile almost all of the time to get out towards the area. And I believe that this project is as good of a project as you're gonna get in that swatch of land. If it was better commercial land and there were people trying to get into that land, I would support that. But I don't want it to sit there empty for the next 2 to 3 years or 5 years, waiting for some commercial people to come in to want to develop it and then take another couple of years. I've seen how quickly these buildings that go up go up. They go up fast. They're going to get the streets done a lot faster than anything else that we would have done. So I am in support of it. That's about all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Maureen Killian.
Good evening. My name is Maureen Killian. I'm also a resident of Sedea. I spoke a couple weeks ago at the Planning and Zoning Commission in opposition of this. I also sent each of you an email, including you specifically, Mr. Mayor. So I just want to reiterate some of the things we've talked about. It doesn't add any quality of life for us. We in Sedea, whether we like it or not, we feel a little ignored. We're the furthest north, furthest west subdivision, and we don't have a lot of support. Okay, we chose to live there. But this doesn't match anything we wanted. It's zoned commercial. Leave it. There's no urgent need to change this to industrial. Why do we need 4 more warehouses right across the street from average home price in Sedea is $765,000? I don't think that stays there if we drive out of our community and see 4 warehouses. It's just not appropriate for where we're at. And Mr. Mayor, I know I emailed you this, but I'm going to say it again. You stated when you ran for mayor, your singular purpose was to maintain the city of Goodyear as a premier community to raise your family, play, and work. I don't see how this is at all in alignment with that. Adding warehouses across the street from a community that's been asking for your support, commercial, retail, anything, so I don't have to drive to Surprise or Buckeye to spend my tax dollars. I give you all my real estate taxes. None of my sales tax dollars go to Goodyear. He talked about it being an employment zone. Let's be honest. The average wage for a warehouse job in the city of Goodyear is about $17 an hour. That can't afford our average rent. It can't afford our average home price. It certainly doesn't afford the average home price in Sedea. So I don't know what kind of employment center we're wanting to build, but I've been driving to Tempe for 20 years for a job because I can't find one in the West Valley that pays what I need to live. So what kind of employment center are we building? I'm sure they're great jobs. They're just not jobs that we need. We have enough of them. They've told you how many warehouses are in a 5-mile radius of our homes. How many more do we need? It just doesn't make sense, and I just think there's no urgent need to change this zoning. Let's work with the developer to come up with something better as use in the current commercial. And I just kind of implore you to reject this request. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
Melinda Grizzle.
My name is Melinda Grizzell. I am a resident of Goodyear. I am definitely not as prepared as everybody else because I'm a middle school teacher and I worked all day and then came here. I'm kind of late to the party, but I'm here in opposition of the rezoning. I also live in Sedea. I've been in Goodyear since 2006. We lived in Canyon Trails when everybody let their houses go. We stayed. We're big believers in Goodyear. We have been up until about recently when we've noticed all of the warehouses. We do feel like this other young lady and gentleman spoke that we are being ignored. We do have to drive to Buckeye or Surprise to go grocery shopping because even the Fry's, which I think is actually in Buckeye, can't keep up with everybody in Sedea as well as all the other new developments. I understand and I really respect all of the work that went into this project, but I would ask you as a mom and a Goodyear resident and someone who works in the city of Goodyear to please not do the rezoning. Thank you.
Anything else?
Yes, Mayor. I've got a card from William Fugati, but he says he does not wish to speak, but he's opposed. But then I also have one from Pamela Fugati, who did not indicate whether she wished to speak or not speak.
I'm not going to speak.
Okay, and she is opposed.
She is opposed.
Yes. And then we have one from Gabriel Candelaria. Do you wish to speak, sir?
Yes, I thought I checked.
Yeah, come on forward.
My name is Gabriel Candelaria, and I'm a Goodyear resident. I do live in Sedea. I'm not a very eloquent speaker, but I will say a couple of things that I've heard. One, it's 170 feet away I don't know if you guys are familiar with a football field. That's less than a football field. Football field is not that big. It's not miles and miles or hundreds of yards. It's 100 yards. So 170 feet is less than a football field. Football field is 300 feet. So it's just a little over half of a football field away. As far as the rezoning, when we bought our homes, we knew what the properties were that were around us, but yet when Microsoft wanted to rezone that, they got rezoned. Now this other place wants to rezone this property. I don't know if they're going to get it or not. Chances are they will. But we bought those properties knowing what was around us, and then you guys are changing it. And that's not right. Now, as far as you saw the airport, the Luke Air Force Base noise abatement zone, we live in Sadea. We know darn well that those aircraft do not stay in that zone. They fly directly over Sadea. Some of us mind, some of us don't. I don't like it. I am a former Air Force veteran. I love the Air Force, but it's quieter on an Air Force base than it is in Sadea. So all I'm asking is you know, stop giving these people what they're constantly asking for. Business what is constantly. Listen to the Goodyear resident, not somebody that doesn't live here. You know, that's not what we want. We want a quality of life that we bought our homes with, not to be changed in the future. Now, the other development that's going to go up pretty soon, yeah, there's nobody there right now, so there's nobody there to oppose it. But once Meritage realizes that they cannot sell those houses because of these buildings, you're going to get a developer that's going to go in and say, I'll buy this property. I'm going to put more warehouses on here, but I need to change the zoning. Will they get it? I don't know. As far as the improvements, I'm still waiting for Microsoft to landscape their property. I'm still waiting for Meritage to landscape Camelback and to open not just the entrance, but to open the road, widen Camelback. They've got the curb in all the way, but it's over, it's buried in dirt and weeds. So if you're not going to make these people fess up to what they're supposed to be doing, how do we know you're not going to make them fess up? Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
Michael Urbanski?
Mike Urbanski. I'm in Goodyear. Okay, I'm new. I just moved here. Love it. Great place so far. But just in the year I've been here, this kind of fits into what I've observed being happening, and what everyone else is talking about, is I moved into an isolated area. And an isolated area from the rest of Goodyear, which has great stuff out there, but I have a 3-mile wall being built between me and what Goodyear has to offer, because nothing is being offered in the Sadea area as far as from the city goes, other than maybe streets, I don't know. But I have to go into Goodyear. I like what I go into Goodyear for, but I have a 3-mile gauntlet of trucks and giant buildings to go through. We're having a wall built around us, literally. It isn't just being isolated, but we're building a wall. And this fits right into another example of the same thing. And, I understand, they want to develop this, and I understand the whole concept of why all the giant buildings are being built and all the trucks there. I understand that, how important that is. The Goodyear magazine covered that very well just maybe a year ago, right? There was a big article about that. I understand, and okay, this is society. But you are isolating us. It would have been better to have us zoned into Litchfield Park or Buckeye for that matter, because That's what's happening. We're being forced into there. Before my time runs out, I'm sorry I haven't been around to see this happening before, because maybe I would have been involved more to try and do something a little different than this. And here is an example. It's too late. I accept that pretty much. If I was going to do anything, though, I would maybe take a small detour here, and that other small section, those two other small buildings, what's to say that can't be some medical plaza or something like that that would also tie into the new residential area that's going to be up there and into the Sadea area? There's nothing saying that little section doesn't have to be warehouses also. That will keep more trucks coming out of that area onto Citrus. It will force, if you go with the other two giant buildings, it's going to force them onto Indian School and out quickly onto the freeway. But if you allow trucks in that area too, that's forcing them into Citrus now too, therefore impacting Sadea and whatever this new section is up here. I'm out of time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Anything else?
Yes, Mayor. Linda Peroni, or Linz Peroni?
Good evening. I am Linda Perone. I am a Goodyear resident of Sadea. I moved to Sadea about 5 years ago. I got out of Surprise because we were disappointed in the way Surprise was going, and we thought Goodyear would be a much more vibrant community, and this was long before it became warehouse land. And obviously, like everybody else, I'm disappointed, but I understand the concept with the warehouses. It is what it is. But I hate to lose commercial property to light industrial or warehouses. I feel, yes, like everybody else, that we're isolated. Feel like you guys kind of forget about us up there. Now we have this huge barrier of miles of warehouses between us and the city. We are, still waiting for our Camelback Road entrance to get finished. That's ridiculous. I don't know how Meritage is allowed to get away with that this long. I'm feeling like I'm living in an industrial zone in Phoenix now instead of in what I thought was, a beautiful community with big houses and nice big lots where we have RVs and stuff and enjoy it. So I'm a little disappointed in that. I also think that would any one of you guys want to live next to this? I don't think so. And I'll bet Pebble Creek people wouldn't want this next to them either. So I'm a little annoyed about that. I'm sure that the landowner and his principals wouldn't want to live next to warehouses either. We have nothing east of us for miles. This Fry's here in Buckeye, where all our sales tax money is going, because that's where we're going to shop and eat. Now that Verado and Jackrabbit has blown up, there is no reason why that corner in Citrus can't become a viable commercial property. 8 years ago, of course not. 5 years ago, no. But with all the new homes out there and all the people and the disposable income out there, and look at Jackrabbit, there's nothing vacant there. That's blown up like crazy over the past, 2 years? Insane. Why can't we have that where we are, where we can put our sales tax to Goodyear? We have to drive all the way to, a lot of people I know drive to the Fry's at Camelback and Litchfield. That's Litchfield Park. You're not getting our sales tax dollars there either. Closest store to us is like Safeway and Walmart at Litchfield and Indian School for groceries. So we need more stuff there. That Fry's is horrible. We can't even get a bottle of soda sometimes. They're wiped out of stuff. So we're shopping in other cities. We're not giving you the sales tax. We're giving Buckeye a good chunk of money. I would like to, a worst case scenario, I would like to maybe have it considered more of a business park than in a warehouses, where smaller businesses could go in and have a wood shop or a garage cabinet shop or a dance studio or, I don't know, martial arts and those kind of things that a business park might attract, where we could have jobs, where we could have things that people in the neighborhood could utilize and enjoy, convenient to us, instead of a warehouse that's not going to benefit any one of us, nor Goodyear with sales tax.
Time?
I also, okay, all right, well, I think now you get my point, that we're against it and we'd like to be considered that we're not the forgotten part of Goodyear. Thank you.
Anything else?
Kaylee Crehan. And Parker Crehan, you're after her, so if you want to move forward as well.
Hi.
Hello.
My name is Kaylee Crehan. I'm a Goodyear resident. I also reside in Sadea. Forgive me, I hate public speaking. But I just wanted to say that I am opposed to this project. I'm born and raised in Goodyear. I'm a fourth generation Goodyearian, and I've seen the area develop. Sorry, regain myself. But my family has been here a long time. I've went to 10 different schools as they're built closer to me. I've seen everything as it's been growing, and I think it's important that Goodyear grows and that we bring more businesses here, but I think they can have their areas. I don't think it needs to be right next to our neighborhood. I agree with a lot of what my neighbors say. We bought our homes knowing that potentially there would be a grocery store built there. I never would have bought my home if I knew that it was going to be next to a warehouse. I am worried that this new building will lower my home value. It's tough enough to get a home in this market, and for it to potentially decrease in value would be like really detrimental. And I just feel that there's no reason that the light industrial park cannot be built in one of the already existing industrial areas. And then I just also wonder what benefit this has to the residents nearby, whereas grocery stores and commercial would really benefit our day-to-day living. One thing the applicant mentions a lot is that they can't sell this to existing commercial, uses, and they've tried before, but I think it's just time. They did buy this land a long time ago, probably for really cheap, and they have been renting it out to farms, so it's not like they are, in need of money, I'm sure. So I think, if we were able to let it sit and wait a little bit longer, that we could, get those commercial developers to want to buy it. And then one thing I also wanted to mention, I feel like this is not typical for a lot of people to come out, but I think that there are a lot of people saying that they're opposed, and this is just a percentage. I have talked to my neighbors, and a lot of people aren't interested in another warehouse being built. So it shows a lot that a lot of our neighbors have shown up, and I actually got PTO off work early. I was dressed as Weird Barbie earlier. I had makeup all over. I came home, scrubbed it off, and raced here so I could get here. So it just shows that we really are, wanting this to be opposed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Who's next?
So Parker Crehan also filled out a card opposing but does not wish to speak, and I'm going to probably butcher this, Fleur Hart. Fleur Hart. Is that right? Points to me.
My name is Fleur Hart, and I've been a resident of Goodyear for about 5 years now. I visited Goodyear first 11 years ago, and I said to myself, if I could live in this place, that would be great. And then the stars aligned, and I moved here. I bought a house by the ballpark, awesome house, stars align again, and I was able to buy my dream home in Sedea. Had I known my neighbor was gonna be a warehouse, I wouldn't have bought it. I was one of the persons contacted by the developer, which I appreciate, and they explained their point. As a builder and as a business owner, it makes sense for them to put a warehouse there. It's gonna be the fastest, easiest way to make their money. Is that what the community needs? No. I don't know if anybody's familiar, but I live with a child and 3 adults. I have to drive 15 to 20 minutes to the closest pharmacy. If Rice doesn't have what I need, I have to drive 15 to 20 minutes either to Buckeye or Surprise or closer to Litchfield Park to get what I need. Not only to mention that, they keep saying that this project has been presented to multiple commercial parties and nobody's interested. As a small business owner myself, I can say and attest that a small business also make money. They make revenue and they serve the community. So perhaps it's not a fact of who wants to come here or who doesn't want to come here. It's a matter of finding out what the community needs and teaming up, because that's what community is. Doing what is good for you and doing what is good for me so we can all thrive together. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
So I have a card for Candy Mitchell Garcia, who has indicated she's opposed and does not wish to speak, but I believe somebody else just filled out a card as well. Is it for this item? Okay.
I don't know. Is this the last one?
Yes, this is the last one.
Okay.
So Debbie Pacella opposed and does not wish to speak. So that's it, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. We go ahead and close the public hearing, does that sound right? Clerk, please read the resolution 2023-2340 by title only.
Adopt resolution number 2023-2340, declaring as public records those certain documents incorporated by reference in ordinance 2023-1588, rezoning approximately 32.43 acres of land located north of the northeast corner of Citrus Road and Indian School Road from C2 General Commercial to I1 Light Industrial.
Thank you. City Council, please enter a motion, a second, to approve the resolution 2023-2340. I see a motion and a second. We'll open it up for questions, and I'm going to go to the Vice Mayor, who's on the phone first. You there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, go ahead.
First off, thank you. I wanted to thank all the residents who reached out to us and also have come out to speak at the planning and zoning and the meeting tonight, and want to say that they were all very well spoken. This is a very unique area, beautiful homes, beautiful neighborhoods, but it's a convergence where there's multiple communities that are meeting up together and trying to find out their identity. Goodyear is such a unique city in that we're so narrow, and we are all throughout the city trying to drive retail into these major corridors, and especially trying to attract more grocery. I think we've heard that message loud and clear. That's really important to people. I just wanted to say thank you to the staff for the 27 stipulations. I think they did a really good job. And I also want to thank the applicant for doing outreach that was far above what was required. Thank you.
Let's see, Councilmember Hampton?
Yeah, I just had some questions. Just wanted to address some of the questions that I had. So how far is the distance from the house, from the houses? I don't know if Steve wants to come back up here again.
Either one.
Either one. I know Abel Ranch is 170. How far is it closest to the closest resident in Sedea?
The closest resident is approximately 650 feet.
Okay. And then this might be for staff. When will the streets be complete along Indian School or Camelback? I hear that a lot from the residents, that it's frustrating that the streets aren't complete in that area.
Christopher's coming up. See if Christopher can answer it for you.
So it does feel like it's been a long time for Microsoft to not have their street complete. And I'm not sure how to mitigate or help that process.
Christopher, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Hampton. So the north half of Indian School, as observed and you heard tonight, is not fully constructed. The south half is. Microsoft is executing, building the northern half of Indian School as well. They have submitted plans to the city. We've done one review, and we are currently working with them to get the plans approvable. We're expecting to issue permits at the end of, by the first of the year. And we are expecting them to have that road complete in March. And then also the landscaping, which you heard a resident also speak of, which is adjacent to the block walls there at Microsoft, that will be installed later this spring after the road construction is complete.
Okay, and then how about Camelback?
I'm going to defer
And
to
is Citrus, is that completely open now, north?
Yeah, I'm going to defer that one to Chris Bridges.
Evening, Mayor. Chris Bridges, Deputy Director of Transportations, Councilmember Hampton. So there's a lot going on in this area. There are various projects at all different stages, some are which reliant on private development to complete their portion before we can complete ours. Camelback is one of those where there's utility conflicts on the north side, all along Sadea, that we are trying to work with the utility companies to get them to move, so that the developer can then construct the south side of Camelback Road. So that one's on them. Indian School, in addition to what Christopher was saying, we had a project from Citrus to Minnesota on Indian School prior to Microsoft doing the whole road that would have also included the traffic signal there. So we're trying to figure out exactly, are we going to rescope that old project and make it just the traffic signal? There's also a secondary project that's from Citrus over to Perryville to do the southern half of Indian School, which is adjacent to state land. So there's no development over there, so that's a project that we're looking at. Both of those are tied to bond project funds. So ultimate construction right now is reliant on approval of the bond. So we've got a variety of things going on in there. I hope I answered your question.
No, yeah, I mean, I have a lot of neighbors and friends in that neighborhood, so I know they're frustrated with that. So, yeah, I'd like if we can fast track that, however possible, that'd be appreciated. So, make that a priority. And then the other question I had is not street related, but I guess another resident mentioned lights. Is light mitigation? I looked at all stipulations. I didn't see anything in there. I assume, but I want to clarify out loud. Are they directional lights? The lights aren't pointed towards the neighborhood. I just wanted to talk about that real quick too.
Mayor, council members, lighting will be addressed. Most areas in the city, we do have a lighting code. It'll be a lighting zone 2, so the developer would have to comply with those standards. As you've seen in the past, that's a very common lighting zone for this type of development, this area. That will require certain heights for light standards, certain shielding required, house side shielding. So we do feel comfortable we have a lighting code that will address this type of development coming next to residential. So we'll have a lighting zone 2 that we will look at when building plans come in. We'll look at all the fixtures, locations, things like that.
Okay, with an eye to if you're living in Sadea. So.
Mayor, council members, it is the whole site, so we will look at comprehensively, yes.
Yeah, I'm just more concerned about the Sadea side than the warehouse side. So, okay. And then I didn't notice in any of the stipulations, is there any noise? I know we had the noise study. Is there any, is there timing? Is there a time? I'm just trying to not repeat, for example, like the UPS location and the neighbors over there. So is there any noise mitigation other than the wing walls that they're doing there with time or operation times or anything like that?
Mayor, council members, at this time within the draft ordinance, there are no stipulations or restrictions on hours of operation. There are no standards that cap a noise level. At this time, we were looking at a rezone We weren't sure of the uses going in at this time.
Yeah, I don't know if they know what they are yet, but
Right.
I'm just trying to protect especially the future residents at Able Ranch and then also the residents across at Sadea as well. So I don't know if that needs to be in there, but I just want to try to head off a future concern if it does go through. Because I know we just, on consent, we passed a new noise, not an ordinance, was it an ordinance in our consent that we just passed? I just want to make sure that that quality of life is addressed in this area here as well. So I don't know if it is or not.
Mayor, council, at this time, there is nothing in the draft ordinance that, again, caps noise or hours of operation. That would be something for council deliberation.
Okay.
Mayor, can I hop
Yeah.
in on that for just a second on that question? With relative to noise, because we don't know who the specific tenants are at this point in time, they may or may not be noise generating, who's to say at this point in time? But what we've done with the stipulations, and Steve and the team, and also with working with the developer, is to build the walls to enhance landscaping and things of that nature. There isn't anything right now as far as a maximum decibel level or anything of that nature, and as Steve pointed out, there is no hours of operation limitation. So when the buildings come forward, we always look at what, for reviews and during building permits, in this particular case, because of the stipulations and the way that they're gonna be oriented, there'll be the doors and the truck traffic or the delivery traffic, it may or may not be trucks, right? Because we don't know who the tenants are. But they'll be all facing each other and not oriented toward the homes.
Yeah, I guess I'm worried about that corridor of noise that might go directly to the Able Ranch there too, but I'm not a noise engineer, but I was just curious about that. And then Christopher might have to answer the other question too, I know we don't know who the uses are here, but is this designation the same designation, for example, like the light industrial that's off of Bullard, south of the hot sauce place there, north of those
North of the apartments?
those weird apartments that we have there?
I believe that is the same zoning designation. That's also light industrial, that complex there that has the, some like local service businesses.
Yeah,
AC repair and things of that nature.
That's what I'm hoping would be the uses at this location. I can't choose who goes anywhere in the city. We try, but I can't choose who goes anywhere. But I'm hoping if it's at least that designation, that we could hopefully get some more uses like that there. So they have they have churches, they have dog grooming, they have all kinds of different uses that could go in there that would fit that designation. So,
Mayor, if I may add on one thing, I mean, the size, there is caps on the size of the buildings, as Steve Kretschmer pointed out. So that is by virtue of the fact that they're not to the scale of many of the other buildings at Goodyear that are in the APZ. They will be smaller, and that lends itself to smaller users as well.
yeah, because I know the ones closest is graduated density, right? What's the height on the closest ones compared to the ones that are farther in?
The height, I believe, Steve Kretschmer, correct me if I misspeak, was 50 feet? So 50 feet.
For both, or for the ones closest and then it goes up, or is it just the size?
Steve, you want to answer that?
Mayor, council members, 50 feet is the height that is generally, a lot of those buildings are in Palm Valley 303, then that's a light industrial zone, 50 feet. You do have some outliers like Fairlife that did get extra height, but generally it's a 50-foot height max.
And that's across the entire site.
That site.
Yeah, and just as a point of reference, C2, general C2 commercial, which is zoned now, has a height limit of 56 feet.
Yeah.
So this commercial that is zoned now could build taller than what the proposal is that you're hearing tonight.
Okay. And then, okay. Yes, I was curious about the size and the comparison of other uses in the city that I'm hopeful would go there as opposed to something else. And did I think I read in here somewhere, was the owners of that Able Ranch, they were in favor of this, is that correct?
Mayor, council members, could I ask you to repeat that, please?
The owners north of this parcel, I thought I read that they were in favor of this project being rezoned, and that was going to have an effect on them being able to move forward with the selling of their houses there.
Mayor, council members, that is correct. Staff did reach out as they are owners of the property. They had questions but did not voice opposition.
Okay. And then, sorry, I have a lot of questions. Sorry. I should have talked to you guys before this meeting, but just want to address everybody else's concerns as they brought them up and publicly address them as well. And then when I look at the parcel itself, the traffic looks like it would make sense that it would go north to, on Citrus, north to Camelback to then get on until the lights all get in there. Does that make sense? There are going to be U-turns going on Indian School. I would imagine they would try to go north on Citrus and then go west on Camelback to then connect to the 303 there. So I don't know if there's any direction that way or any things that would address that, because I don't know when the timing and everything's going to happen with the streets being completed. So I don't know if there needs to be a sign or truck traffic this way, things like that.
So, Mayor, Councilmember Hampton, when the project comes in for site plan and CDs, that's when the exact locations of the driveways will all be fit, because we'll have the exact layout of how the developer wishes to execute the project. And then at that time, we work with our friends in traffic and also in our civil plan review division to make sure that the driveways as proposed aren't conflicting with medians or things of that nature. So the development scheme, the preliminary development drawing that you had in the package that was shown on the screen tonight was proposing some driveway, 2 connections to Citrus and I believe 3 to Indian School. The exact locations of those are not determined yet.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And it really does depend on which users go in there. And I'm hoping there'll be commercial-like users, kind of like that Bullard area that I've used a lot for different services. I mean, even like gymnastics places and things like that, where my kids go to gymnastics is at I-11 as well. So I'm hoping that those are the uses that the applicant will try to attract in this location here. But obviously I can't decide what goes there. Hopefully the small businesses or the organizations will come themselves. So, yeah, so I just wanted to vocalize what the residents brought, what Randy and Ken and Mason, Melinda, William, and everybody else brought, concerns about noise and traffic and all those things as well. So thank you for all that. I think I'm good.
You good?
For now, thank you.
Councilmember Campbell? No.
Thank you. I have a couple of comments and a couple of questions, but Christopher, I'd like to address something to you, if I may, please. A couple of the residents brought up Meritage and not doing what they were supposed to do, and I have no idea what they're talking about. So if y'all could, when you can, find out what they didn't do and figure out how we can make them do what they said they'd do if it was in our approval process, because I hate to hear that. If we approve these plans or any plans and we put stipulations in them, we expect them to be followed to the letter, period.
Yes, ma'am. Mayor, Councilperson Campbell. So to answer your question, what Chris Bridges was alluding to with the utility conflicts, Meritage has designs in. They are ready to execute. They cannot build until the other utility conflicts are resolved in their private utilities. So it's something that we can't control. Meritage is aware of their obligation. They do want to perform. It's not necessarily a problem with getting Meritage to perform. It's with getting the other utilities to relocate so they can perform. And that's why the curb is there, but the pavement isn't done and things of that nature. So it has been an ongoing issue because there's several different utilities that are in conflict. And actually, we've had internal conversations just most recently as today with our city attorney's office to talk about what we as an organization, as the city, can do to help prod this along.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you for clarifying that to answer their concerns. So a little history on Sadea. the first plat was approved in 2005. And to be absolutely honest, if it came before council today, I would be a no vote to put a residential community up in the furthest western part, northwest part of the city. Our boundary is Camelback Road on the south side, not the north side of Camelback, but the south side. And Perryville, and that's where we stop. And the comments that, yes, Verado is growing, Jackrabbit's growing, all of that's growing, it's because the density is there. We don't have density in Sadeo. It's only approximately 1,100 homes. And commercial people are not going to come in and build a business because 1,100 people can't support their business. You have to have density. And that's why for our city, it's taken us so long to get some of the amenities that we wanted because we didn't have enough density or daytime employment centers that people would be eating at restaurants and buying things and then at nighttime doing the same thing. And it's really a tough balance act. And to Ms. Perrone, you're right, you are isolated, and I'm sorry about that. You are very isolated, but we don't have any housing around. The housing that's going to be built north of you, if it is built at all, it's Glendale. We have nothing to do with it. It's all Glendale. And the rest is county. We have nothing to do with it. We can't even get Glendale to work with us to work on Camelback Road and have fun part of it. So we're only going to do our part because that's what we have to do. But we understand your concerns and we know what you want. We're very concerned about, well, I'm sorry, we're not concerned. We know where the fly zone is and we know what can go in there. And we know that if anyone wanted to put commercial in, since you have been in, or Sadea has been in existence for 18 years, something would have come in, and it has not. It just hasn't. The two commercial parcels that are there, the one at the bottom where, at the corner of Citrus and Indian School, and then across the street where the Sadea property is, if I'm not mistaken, that's a drainage ditch part of it, isn't it? And probably nothing can be built there anyway because of the drainage ditch, but it would be built past that because you're going to have a flooding issue. So that, I doubt seriously if that corner will ever be developed. But we appreciate all of you coming and we appreciate the work that the staff has done on this. We appreciate the developer even wanting to build there. We want you to know that our economic development department works every single day trying to get businesses to come to Goodyear. And they show them all of the open, developed, all the land that's marked commercial. And they can't find anyone that's interested to be that far up. And you're right, Fry's runs out of stuff, and I hate that you have to go and give your money to Buckeye, but that's the closest store to you. It is what it is. So, but thank y'all all very much for coming, and I appreciate all the staff work and what the developer is proposing.
Ready? Sherry? Sherry, you're up.
I just have a couple questions. If we could put up the slide, the aerial slide, I think that is, Steve? With regard to Citrus, when that's built up, I understand we got the questions answered about its procedure and where we're at in that with Citrus. When that is built out, what will be the buffer, the distance between that corner of the site and the other side of the street? How many lanes is that going to be when it's built out?
Mayor, council members, are you talking from about?
Citrus, yeah, how big's that road going to be? Sorry, Christopher. Is it two each way and a median, or what is the plan for that?
Yes, Mayor, council member, I believe, off the top of my head, that is a 2 median 2, so two north, 2 south.
Okay, and Is there a plan for a light or anything going into this property off of Citrus, or would any light be off of Indian School, or is that too close for a light there?
Right now, we have programmed in our CIP a traffic signal at Citrus and Indian School. If there's something that comes in later proposed by the development, that gets reviewed with the traffic impact analysis, and again, depending upon the uses and the impact and signal warrants, that there could be something there. But it's most likely going to be off of Indian School, further to the east than to the north. It's pretty close there. So that's probably not the best location, and I'm not sure, just looking at the picture, that it's going to meet our requirements to have one to the north.
Gotcha. And then with regard to the two buildings that are going to be closest to Citrus, when Councilmember Hampton was asking questions, it sounded like those have the ability to be a light industrial that could be consumer uses as well. Is that correct? Are they small enough buildings to subdivide? I don't know if the applicant can help me with that. Mr. Bull?
Yes.
Okay, so that could be like what we see with the young woman who's talking about the karate studio or the sandwich shop or the mom and pop cabinet store with the stuff in the back. That's what can go in those two buildings. That's what we're looking at there.
Some of the uses that I believe you're referencing would be more natural to occur on the C2 corner, either this corner or the Sadea corner, which allow a wide variety of retail and other kinds of uses. I-1, which this part is all I-1, including these smaller buildings, does include some flexibility in that regard. It includes offices and other kinds of things that are expressed in I-1 that could occur, whether it be regular offices, veterinary offices, some retail up to 25% of a given building is allowed as I recall, an accessory use. An example of that may be a business that's in there that makes something in the back and sells it or displays it in the front. But there are other opportunities to be decided by the city's zoning administrator if they're considered to be analogous uses. And we see those used sometimes as the world continues to evolve and invents today uses that didn't exist yesterday, and buggy whips that we sold yesterday don't get sold today. But that flexibility that's built into, I think, all of Goodyear's zoning and districts allows some conversation between a potential tenant and the zoning administrator to say, well, I'm similar to an office, or I'm similar to this, or similar to that.
Okay, and that's what I was wondering, because there were some businesses that were mentioned over by Bullard that are the same industrial designation, and there used to be a trampoline park in there, or a blow-up thing where the kids would go and have birthday parties, and in the back they had the giant slides type of thing. So this isn't a cross dock, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
It is not a cross dock and can't be under the stipulations. The design that's on the screen are not cross dock buildings, and because the stipulations require that it be an internalized truck court, not only here, but this is internalized as well, there's not an opportunity to have a cross dock double loaded building.
So this isn't the warehouse, for the people that don't know, a cross dock where they just bring a pallet of stuff and then another truck just brings a pallet of stuff. There's a stipulation to prevent that here.
Well, people can bring in, I mean, warehousing is permitted in I-1 here and everywhere, and that's part of what is actually encouraged under some of the noise contour concepts that are a reality in proximity to any military air facility. But this is not designed as a mega industrial building, and it's not cross dock, and as Steve indicated and is confirmed in the stipulation, there's a minimum of 3 buildings required on the site, and there's a maximum square footage for the largest building, which is this one to the east, and it's immediately adjacent to some significant industrial that's occurring immediately to the east as this site, as I mentioned before, transitions in terms of intensity and building size. It transitions from west to east.
That's all the questions I have. Thank you very much. That's all I have right now.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Councilmember Stipp.
Thank you. Steve, you don't have a larger aerial in your 3-ring binder, do you? That, because I know it's not in the presentation. That's as big as you get, right? I didn't know if you went to the David Copperfield School of Presentation, that you had something to pull out of your hat there for Elmo, but you know, these are very difficult cases, I think, for I'm going to just say for me. I don't want to speak for everybody. A couple of things I want to clear up. One was the question was asked earlier about the nearest home to Sadea. Mr. Bull, you indicated it was about 650 feet or so.
That's my understanding, yes.
But the nearest home that would back up into Able Ranch, that's a little bit different. That's the less than 200 feet. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, you know, I think when we talk about proximity, I'm going to say the saving grace with this one is there's nothing there yet. So, you know, it's not, fortunately, there's no one living there right at this moment. So, I just wanted to provide that little bit of clarity. The other issue was we have talked about, it was mentioned earlier, the number of projects that have been rezoned in that area. And if memory serves me correctly, and somebody in this room is going to remember this, I believe that those Microsoft projects and everything in that area, those were all zoned agriculture before they had an actual commercial zoning, whether it be commercial, industrial, et cetera. Those were all ag before, correct?
Here comes Christopher.
Mayor, Councilmember Stipp, yes, that's correct.
Okay.
They were rezoned, Microsoft area was rezoned to, I believe, PAD, but to support data center industrial growth.
Yeah, but essentially they were all ag before.
Yeah.
So if I remember my history of the city correctly, pretty much everything from the 303 west was all quote unquote agriculture until it was ready to be, as they say, quote unquote, taken down to be turned into something else. So the design was always, these were going to be converted from ag to something else.
Yes, sir.
So it's not 100% accurate, although it is fairly accurate to say that we have zoned all of this, but it wasn't intentionally to be industrial. It's just what kind of came through. Somebody had made the comment earlier, would you want to live there? And I do not live in the Sadea community, obviously, because I think you probably would have burned my house down. And I don't mean that negatively. Please don't find out where I live and then burn that one down. But I do live in Palm Valley 5, which is on the other side of 303, which has the other end of the Luke departure zone. So I get the other side of the 65 line that you guys get to enjoy. I get my plates rattled and my front door rattled every time there's a sortie that goes. So I am intimately familiar with the sound, although I think you're closer, so I think you have it worse. But anyway, I think the real challenge that we have to look at in this corridor, and that's why I wanted the bigger map, when we look at this end of the city and that departure corridor coming out of the end of the runway, that whole area really starts to expand pretty wide from I was trying to avoid this, Christopher, with you putting your computer screen up.
We'll see if it works.
Yeah. Yeah, we're like 60-40 on this working. Oh, it's coming.
There we go.
So go wider. I'm sorry, go wider.
So this is Sadea right here where my finger
Yep,
is.
right where your finger is. So when you look at the departure out of Luke, that whole swath of land, so if you can just kind of, just don't touch the screen, just kind of, there you go. Or I'll come down there and do it for you. That whole area is essentially no man's land. The only thing that can really effectively go in there is going to be what we generally term industrial. And I don't mean to sound lecturing, but that's the reality of it. So the area right behind Palm Valley 5, which butts up, separates the residential from Camelback, is all industrial, and that's the area that backs up behind that, where my home is. We've had a number of warehouses go in there. There's a few more that are going up at Camelback, and I think we're calling it Saraville up there, but it's Pebble Creek Parkway as it ends in that general area. It's the only thing that really works in there. Imagine a grocery store on the corner of Citrus and Indian School with those jets flying. I can't, no one would want to put their business there. But these lighter industrials seem to make some sense, which is why I think you're seeing a proliferation of them, at least in this corridor in the area that we control. Now, what is happening north of Camelback and on either side of the 303, and particularly in the city of Glendale, that is just flat out, there's a lot of it. And I see it every day when I drive to Surprise or I drive to Buckeye in that particular way as well. So just from a kind of a little point of clarity, it's not going to make any difference, I think, one way or the other. But that's why you're seeing what it is that that you're seeing there. When we talk about, thanks for the visual, Christopher. When we talk about I-2 zoning, which is generally referred to as hard industrial, so can we talk about somebody, I'm going to look at one of you guys, talk about the difference between I-1 and I-2, and since you're standing at the mic, Christopher, I'm assuming it's going to be you.
Sure. Thank you, Councilmember Stipp, Mayor. The difference between I-1 and I-2 really is, think about it as a gradation of sort of intensity, if you will. I-2 is is what we call heavy industrial, so it would be something more akin to something smokestacky, or a cement batch plant, a permanent cement batch plant, maybe a fertilizer manufacturer, things of that nature. Like there's a couple of those that parallel 303 North and some other communities. So I-1 is called light industrial, which is things mostly inside, maybe a little bit of limited outdoor storage. Heavy industrial, a lot of outdoor storage, a lot of stacking, smokestack-ish type of heavy users.
So what we don't have in that area is I-2.
That's 100% correct.
Right, and that is absolutely by design. So even though we're dealt with the departure of Luke in this area and a limited options, we've at least chosen the worst of the best of the worst choices. I'll just say it that way. So, this. I said this a year ago, or actually probably longer, when we talked about the 1,000 acres in that area, that everyone kept saying, why? I probably said almost exactly the same thing I said tonight. The real question was, we probably should have just cut the city line off at Perryville and let it all be that way. And doing the best that we can. The balance in this is this property owner has the right to request the change. We're not obligated to to say yes, but they do have the right to ask, and that's part of their legal right to the property. So we really have to ask is this truly detrimental, and from a logical, legal perspective, not well, my property values are going to go down. We have not experienced property value decline anywhere in this city on any project that we have approved, whether it be multifamily, industrial, et cetera. It just doesn't happen. So I think these are difficult ways forward. I do appreciate hearing from everybody. I think it's generated some questions that we're going to have to get answers to on the roadways in that area and why they have taken so long and really what's happening. And you know, we don't want to kind of say publicly tonight who those utilities are, but I think we have an obligation to know who and why. And I think finding that out is going to be important. I would like us to be able to reach out to every resident that had expressed a concern about the project and mentioned the roadways to give them that answer as well. But we have been faced with these the pocket corner. It's a small corner of commercial. We just did this 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago with a multifamily request at the corner of Van Buren and Estrella Parkway, which is not in the middle of nowhere, that we absolutely cannot get any commercial user to come in. And that is one of the busiest intersections in the entire city. And we can't get a commercial user there. I don't know how we get a commercial user at Indian School and Citrus. I can't imagine it. We don't control the land, they do. We bring lots of people through, and right now, when you look at the landscape of grocery stores, and we just had this a week ago from ASU came out and talked about what's going on in real estate. There, you have Kroger, who owns Fry's, Safeway, Albertsons. You have Walmart. You have Amazon. And you have Target. That's it. There's 4 grocers in the entire market anymore. They are not going to build another grocery store within 2 miles of their existing store. They're not going to build one anywhere north of I-10. You're not going to see another grocery store. There's too many of them. Now all owned by the same company. So that just jams up everything that we thought 20 years ago belonged on this corner. And I think that becomes our real challenge going forward. So thanks for all the information and bringing your computer up.
Hi, I'm sorry to speak on, Sharon, but
Yep.
I feel like this is my only shot. Am I able to?
No. You know, it's great discussion from all you up here, some great questions. You know what, the only thing I would add, because you've covered it all, is with Ed, either Ed or Nico, is those 4 individuals that you have. You know, I've been told a lot of small businesses start up in those type of environments where they would be doing some work in the back and maybe having some sales up front. I would hope that maybe you would try to get something like for the neighborhood in those pieces, as that lady had previously asked, to see if you can get tenants for something along those lines. Because that might be a perfect spot, you know, who knows, veterinarian, maybe, who knows, something for that area would be helpful. So just a thought along those lines, okay? With that, if you would, let's see, we're done with the discussion. Go ahead and open the voting. I need to hear from the vice mayor.
I vote aye.
Passes 7-0. Thank you, Vice Mayor. Will the city clerk please read ordinance 2023-1588 by title only?
Adopt ordinance number 2023-1588, conditionally rezoning approximately 32.43 acres of land located north and east of the northeast corner of Citrus Road and Indian School Road from C2 General Commercial to I1 Light Industrial, amending the zoning map of the city of Goodyear, providing for non-abridgment, providing for corrections, providing for severability, providing for an effective date, providing for penalties, and directing the city clerk to record a copy of this ordinance.
Thank you. Would the council please enter a motion as second, approve ordinance 2023-1588? I see a first and a second. Any requests to speak? See none, go ahead and open up. And Vice Mayor?
Aye.
Passes 7-0. Thank you. What I'd like to do is take a 10-minute break at this point, if you would, please, and then we'll pick it up afterwards, all right? Thank you. The next public hearing item is to consider is a special use permit for a private club at 1572 South Cotton Lane. Open the public hearing. Go ahead and introduce yourself, please.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. For the record, I'm David Williams and contract planner here for the city of Goodyear. The request before you this evening, though, there we go. Request before you this evening is a special use permit for the Moose Lodge, which is located on Cotton Lane, just south of Yuma. It is a special use permit for a private club. I do want to point out that as part of the request, they are asking for a 5-year approval period for this. Traditionally, we have a 2-year approval period for special use permits. However, in this case, they are encumbered by ADOT's ability to move forward with the 303. They have already been through this process before, so many of you may have already seen this particular application come through, this request a few years ago. They were unable to perform because of the ADOT requirements at that time. So they're back again. They are requesting a longer approval period. They're also requesting during construction that they be allowed to have 2 cargo containers on the property for storage of their materials just during construction. We've already kind of talked roughly about the rough location, but it is adjacent to the Cotton Flower Marketplace and the Cotton Flower subdivisions. It does front the future 303 as well. The property site is zoned as C1. It's a 3-acre site today. It will be, it will be shrunk down slightly to accommodate the 303. The structure on it is unique in that it was originally a World War II Quonset hut. It was moved to this particular site in 1958 by a crop duster who used it as an airplane hangar with a runway going south out of this particular building. Doesn't have any historical context, but it is kind of unique for Goodyear. Came off one of the Luke auxiliary fields. The site, as you all are aware, is typical World War II Quonset hut construction, relatively unremarkable in its architecture. They do have a sign out in front, and then due to the site, due to the age, due to the site constraints, it's kind of taken on a little bit of an industrial look with the Jersey barriers in front to protect the site from cars. There have been numerous accidents here. Public Works has gone through and just finished a safety project in front of this to hopefully minimize any potential accidents going forward in the future through the construction cycle. Here's some other photos of the side of the building and the rear of the building. And then here is the building. I'm facing to the northwest. This is the Cotton Flower subdivision that's adjacent to it. And I just want to call out the drainage culvert right here in the photograph. That aligns with a Maricopa County Flood Control District drainage channel that runs underground. The new building will be west of this particular easement. So as we look at that, I'll point out on the site plan where this culvert is. This application does not impact or affect the existing cell tower and cell tower enclosure that's on the property. There's no changes with regards to that use. As I said, the existing building will be removed. The proposed building is a 2-story, 6,600 square foot building with a 1,900 square foot patio on the east side of the building. So it'll be facing the 303. The uses will include meeting space, offices, the bar, restaurant, associated storage, internal. And then the site improvements are going to include new driveway entrance, paved parking, parking lot screening, landscaping. The site is going to come up to modern standards. The site as it exists today is very typical of what you would have seen in Maricopa County in 1958. So it's going to go into full compliance. Access to the particular site is right in and right out, and that is a constraint of the Loop 303 going through. It'll be off of a frontage road that will be built there, but the site access is limited in this regard. So if you're coming at the site from the south, you will have to go north, make a U-turn and come down. If you need to leave going northbound, you have to go south and again, make that U-turn to come back around. Here is some of the site architecture, and what I want to do is I'm just going to kind of briefly go through this because we have better renderings deeper in the presentation. This is the front of the building, the east side of the building. We have the south elevation. This is the west elevation. This is what will be facing the residential neighborhood. And then this is the north elevation. Now, as we look at it, we have an artist rendering here from the architect showing what the overall site will look like when completed, with screen walls, landscaping. He did omit the cell tower, but he does have the cell tower enclosure right here. There will be some screened parking, or some shaded parking rather, on the south side of the building. This is the patio that we spoke about, the outdoor patio, and parking surrounding the remainder of the site. This is the north side of the building as you're entering in. This is where most of the activities will occur, the entrance of the building. Here's that neighborhood side again. Here is the wall that the neighbors will see. Here is the patio area. And the use permit has, any special use permit has evaluation criteria built into it automatically. Is this a desirable or necessary use? Will it be harmonious and compatible with uses adjacent to and in the vicinity of the selected site? Is it in conformance with the adopted general plan? And that it will not be detrimental to the surrounding properties for circulation, excessive noise, light, excessive scale or height, hours, inadequate size, and architecture consistent with that of the surrounding properties. The citizen review and public hearing process were followed as part of this. We held a community meeting on August 22nd in this building. 35 people showed up to the building. All were members of the Moose Lodge. So it was actually a very good discussion, even though they were all members of the lodge. A lot of them had not seen these plans. They had not been able to meet with the architect and the designers and ask them questions. So it was a good, productive meeting. Notice of public hearing was mailed out to everybody within 500 feet. It was published in the newspaper. It was also posted on the property. To date, staff has received no comments with regards to this application. The Planning Commission held their meeting just a couple of weeks ago. We gave a presentation. We had no questions. There was a statement made about the Quonset hut hangar, just the unique nature of it. And then the commission voted unanimously 6-0 to send a recommendation to you for your request for approval. Upon review by staff, the application does meet all of the city requirements, and I am happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Is the applicant here?
Yes, I'm sorry, I apologize for that. The applicant is here, and they're happy to answer any questions for you as well.
Okay, why don't you hold right now, let's see if we get any questions.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody in the audience like to speak? With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. The council please enter a motion and a second to approve a special use permit for the private club on approximately 3 acres of parcel zone C1 neighborhood commercial located at 1572 South Cotton Lane. The property subject to the stipulations. Open for council discussion. Well, first I've got the two. Let's see, Hampton, Councilmember Hampton's up first. Oh, wait a minute, hold on. I got to get back. Vice Mayor, you have any questions?
I have no questions, thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Hampton.
Yeah, not questions, but this is really, it's really good because of the 303, it's going to need to get expanded. So I'm really glad that now they're moving forward. I've been waiting for this presentation because it's been years that we knew this was going to be, this day would be coming that they're going to need to move because of the 303. So yeah, looking forward to approve this. It's definitely a step up from their last facility. I think it'll look nice there. And also, I know the Moose Lodge, they do a lot of charity events. They do a lot of things for the community as well. So yeah, I'm glad that they're moving forward, and it's a natural progression of getting that 303 eventually widen there. So thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Campbell, you're up next.
Thank you. I have several questions. Number one, how tall is the second story? How tall is it going to go?
The building is 32 feet tall. The parapet height is 30, or I should say the building is 30 with a parapet height of 32 feet. So it does meet the height requirement for the zoning district in C1, 30 feet.
And what is it zoned as?
It is zoned as C1, light
C1.
commercial.
Okay, my next question, and it may be in the stipulations, have we stipulated hours that the
Yes, we
patio,
have.
that the patio can be used?
Yes, we have.
About noise, lights, that
Yes.
sort of thing, because it is facing the neighborhood if I got
We
my
do-
bearings right.
We do have that included as stipulation number 9 in your packets.
Number
And-
9?
Yes, and it basically says all outdoor activities shall be limited to the patio area on the east side of the building, and I'm paraphrasing here. No outdoor events held in the parking lot. with respect to certain boundaries so that it's not encroaching into the neighbors. And that music, outdoor entertainment, other outside activities shall only occur between the hours of 10 a.m. and 10 p.m., Fridays and Saturdays, and on the rest of the time, Sunday through Thursday, they are limited with a closing time of 8 p.m. for outdoor activities.
Okay, and the noise generated within has to be totally
Yes.
contained after 10 o'clock?
Correct, yeah.
So
The
we
noise
won't-
generation must be
Okay.
kept within the building.
All right, and the next question I have, what are they gonna do with the Quonset hut? They're gonna rip it down?
It's going to get ripped down.
Okay, and then can you go back to the picture of the whatever it's supposed to look like?
Yes, so I have this rendering,
Yeah,
or I
that,
can
no,
certainly.
would you give me the streets, please, because it doesn't indicate.
Oh, yes, I apologize. So this right here would be Cotton Lane. And then this is actually the entrance to the Cotton Flower commercial area over here. So,
On Yuma Road?
no, it is south of Yuma. Let me jump back to, oops, other way. Sorry. So the location is right here.
Yeah.
Moose Lodge is on Cotton Lane. It is approximately.
Oh, I know where it is.
1,200 feet south of Yuma. The road on the north side of the property is the access drive to the Cotton Flower Marketplace.
That wasn't my question.
I apologize.
Never mind. I'm sorry. I wanted to know in the rendering what the streets were of the rendering. And
The only street in the rendering is Cotton Lane, and that would be.
and all the rest of that is in the back of the area. Now,
All of the residences would be back here.
Okay, you said you would note the drainage area. Where is it?
Oh, yes, I apologize for that. The drainage area, if we go to the site plan, the drainage area, that culvert that I spoke about is right here. What we have is we have a 40-foot easement, this being the western boundary of it, coming up, and then it curves slightly and exits the property up here. So the Maricopa County Flood Control Channel comes through here
Mhm.
and down.
And there's no way that it's going to flood the building or the parking lot?
No.
Okay.
It's an underground channel and should have plenty of capacity. Maricopa County Flood Control has reviewed this as well.
Okay, because since it's a different building,
Mhm.
it's not the same as the Quonset hut. And I know that how sometimes at the Quonset hut, the water did gather on the outside. And I just want to make sure that if we're gonna build it, let's build it right and have the right drainage so that they can use that facility.
Yes.
Even if it's pouring down rain.
Yes. One of the things, because it is a flood control related project, is they will have to have a finished floor height that is appropriate to Maricopa County Flood Control so that we don't have that occur.
Okay, and would you tell me again why they want to have the special use permit expire 5 years rather than 2?
The current time frame right now for ADOT on the 303, and Mr. Bridges and I just spoke about this, it's in the 2025 budget to move forward with that. So we're probably 2 years from them getting a budget and requests for proposals out to the public, and probably 2 more years to get the thing built in that particular area. So they're just looking for enough lead time that they can work with ADOT and not have to come back before you to ask for an extension or anything else.
Who's paying to rip down the Quonset hut and build this building?
They are selling a portion of the land. They will be paying for it, is my understanding, but that's an agreement between them and ADOT. ADOT is buying the land from them for that frontage, and I would
So they could
imagine
do
it's-
that, they could buy it and do it today. They don't have to wait till 2025 to
Correct.
start.
Correct.
Is that their
ADOT certainly
plans to
could do that.
start?
Their plans right now are about 2 years out before they're ready to start on that particular project.
All right, so if we give them the permission of 5 years and they're 2 years out, then they're only gonna have 3 years left.
Yes, that's correct. As soon as ADOT starts their work, then they'll be in a better position to time their project to get that done.
Okay.
Their total construction for a project like this should be approximately 8 to 9 months if they move forward diligently to get that accomplished.
Okay, and
So-
does it cost them money to come back to get another use permit?
They would have to file another application for this to make that request, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Stipp.
Thank you for the presentation. I have no questions other than to say to Moose Lodge, thank you for thank you for being a good partner with us on the little widening project that we did in front of your place, for just kind of putting up with this. I know that this was already supposed to have been done. So it's not within the city's control, it's within ADOT, but I think giving the additional time is a benefit both to them in that we're not gonna, as we found out tonight, we're waiting for private utilities that are screwing up a whole host of road projects. I would hate for the Moose Lodge to have to come back and reapply for another special use permit because we shorted them on time. So thanks for your flexibility, and look forward to bringing this to conclusion.
With that being said, I have nothing else to add. Go ahead and open the voting, and Vice Mayor?
I vote aye.
Passes 7-0. Thank you. The next public hearing item is to consider as a special use permit to extend a land reclamation project at the southwest corner of West Roosevelt and North 157th Avenue. Open the public hearing. Please introduce yourself.
Hi. Good evening, Mayor and council members. I am Ann Dolmage, Senior Planner, and this is a special use permit for the Fusaro Land Reclamation Extension. The project site is at the southwest corner of 158th Avenue and Roosevelt Street, and it's approximately 29.4 acres. Currently, the main portion of the site is owned agricultural. There is a small piece at the northeast corner that falls within the Canyon Trails Phase 1 planned area development. Historically, this site has been used as a borrow pit, providing fill material for the construction of I-10, and it's no longer needed for that purpose. Fusaro, a land reclamation company, purchased the property in 2016. The following year, our zoning ordinance was amended to allow inert material landfills to facilitate land reclamation of public project borrow pits in any zoning district with special use permit approval. That same year, Fusaro obtained a special use permit to fill in this pit. That use permit was valid for 5 years, so it has now expired, which is why they're here tonight to obtain a new use permit. Fusaro has spent a lot of time cleaning up materials on the site. To fill in the pit, trucks will import materials from construction projects across the valley. Only inert, non-hazardous materials are accepted, inert meaning not biologically or chemically reactive. At the time of application, it was estimated that it would take 5 to 7 years to complete filling in the pit. The applicant recently indicated that it could take up to 10. Our proposed stipulations would limit the special use permit to 7 years. So if it takes longer than 7 years, they'll need to get another special use permit. When the deposited material approaches the maximum fill, an evaluation of the final cover plans will occur. At this time, we don't know what this land will be used for. There was a neighborhood meeting on July 6th. We had 3 attendees, all neighbors of the project. All were in support of continuing the reclamation process. A sign was posted at the property with the hearing dates, and a legal ad was published in the newspaper with hearing dates, and we've received no inquiries on those notifications. Planning Commission heard this project on October 18th. The applicant assisted with questions about the time frame for completion and the amount of material removed from the site. The applicant assumes that the project will take another 5 to 10 years to complete because construction activity has slowed in the area, so we have fewer trucks visiting the site to deposit material. And they said a very small amount of material has had to be removed from the site since they took ownership of the property. There were no public comments and no discussion aside from those 2 questions, and the commission voted 6-0 to recommend approval to council. Staff finds the continued reclamation of the property will restore the site for other uses that are more compatible with the neighborhood, and it adheres to zoning ordinance evaluation criteria for a special use permit with the recommended stipulations of approval. And we recommend approval of the SCP with stipulations, and the applicant is here to address any questions you may have, and they also have a presentation, and I'm also here to answer any questions you might have about the project.
Okay,
Thank
with the
you.
applicant, just hold off, see if we have any questions for the applicant. Any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Anybody other than the applicant in the audience want to speak? Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. Will the council please enter a motion in a second to approve the request for a special use permit to continue the existing Fosara Land Reclamation Project on approximately 29.4 acre parcel generally located at the southwest corner of West Roosevelt Street and North 157th Avenue within the agricultural and Canyon Trails Phase 1 Planned Area Development District subject to compliance with stipulations. Open council, well, first I got first and a second. Open council discussion. Councilmember Hampton.
Yeah, no, thank you for bringing this. I work right there, and I pass this location pretty often. So I was here on the council when we did the first approval, which is great. And I assume it's the same type of, it's almost the same repetitive permit, right? They're doing a compact study as they're going up to all that as well. Is that correct?
Yes, Mayor and Councilmember Hampton,
Okay.
that's correct.
And then I do appreciate, I didn't realize this, but there's still an access point to the neighborhood along that road, correct? That's not going to change.
Yes, trucks will enter the site from Roosevelt Street at the northeast corner of the property, and that's the only access point.
Yeah, I'm just saying there's a small business that if you go down that same trail into the neighborhood, that's not going to be adversely affected. They're still going to be able, the public can still drive down that road and get to that access point as well.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Good. Yeah, I think 7 years. I'm looking forward to this getting filled up, and then we'll see what goes there, because I think it could definitely be a good infill project, whatever it ends up being. So, all right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, I don't see anything else. Go ahead and open the voting and call on the vice mayor.
I vote aye.
Passes 7-0. Thank you. The next public hearing item is to consider is a rezoning of the Goodyear Municipal Complex. Open public hearing.
Yes, good evening again. Again, my name is Ann Dolmage, Senior Planner, and this is a rezone of the Goodyear Municipal Complex, or GMC site. As you know, the GMC is located at the southeast corner of 145th Avenue and Van Buren Street, and it's approximately 17.6 acres in size. Current zoning is I-1, or Light Industrial Park. The property has had the I-1 zoning since 2004. Around that time, the north end of the site was developed as a private business park, and the city leased office space within that park. But by 2012, the city purchased the property and then added the telecom or 911 building and the police administration building to the site. Currently, multiple city departments still operate out of the site, including the courthouse, engineering, IT, and the police and fire administration functions. Franklin Pierce University and the Goodyear Wellness Center are also located at the site. And in September, Solid Rock Teen Centers will lease the former library space for a youth community center. The current uses at the site, as well as the teen center, do not conform to the existing I-1 zoning. We're proposing to rezone the site to Public Facilities District, or PFD, with a PAD overlay. The PFD zoning will authorize the city uses that are already operating there. The overlay will permit colleges and universities, so Franklin Pierce would be covered there. The community center, so Solid Rock would be covered. And offices, both general and medical, so the Goodyear Wellness Center would be covered by that. Staff did an alternative citizen review process since there are no residences within 500 feet of the property. Postcards were sent to neighbors who are within 500 feet on September 22nd, and we've received no inquiries as a result of that. Additionally, a sign was posted at the property and a legal ad was published with the hearing dates. And again, no inquiries for those. Planning Commission heard this project on October 18th. There were no questions or discussion and no public comments. And the commission voted 6-0 to recommend approval to council. Finally, staff recommends approval of this rezone from I-1 Light Industrial Park to PFD, Public Facilities District, with a PAD, Planned Area Development Overlay. And I'm available for any questions.
Any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Anybody in the audience like to speak? Seeing none, I'm gonna close the public hearing. City Clerk, please read Resolution 2023-2353 by title only.
Adopt resolution number 2023-2353 declaring as public records of certain documents incorporated in reference in ordinance 2023-1594 rezoning approximately 17.6 acres of land located at the southeast corner of 145th Avenue and Van Buren Street from I-1 Light Industrial to PAD Planned Area Development with underlying PFD Public Facilities District zoning and a PAD Planned Area Development overlay.
Thank you. Would the council please enter a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2023-2325? I see a motion and a second. Go ahead and open up for voting. Vice Mayor?
I vote aye.
Passes 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
City Clerk, please read the ordinance 2023-1594 by title only.
Adopt ordinance number 2023-1594, conditionally rezoning approximately 17.6 acres of property located at the southeast corner of Van Buren Street and 145th Avenue from I-1 Light Industrial Park to the Planned Area Development, PAD, zoning district with an underlying zoning of PFD, Public Facilities District with a PAD, Planned Area Development overlay. Amending the zoning map of the City of Goodyear, providing for non-abridgment, providing for corrections, providing for severability, providing for an effective date, providing for penalties, and directing the city clerk to record a copy of this ordinance.
Thank you. Would the council please enter a motion and a second to approve the ordinance 2023-1594? I see a motion and a second. Open for discussion. Anybody want to say anything? With that, go ahead and open the voting. Vice Mayor?
Aye.
Passes 7-0. Thank you. The last public hearing to consider is the rezoning of 37.45 acres known as Estrella parcels, 12.25, 12.36, and 80 notch from planned area development to R1-6 with PAD overlay. Go ahead and open public hearing. Go ahead and introduce yourself, please.
Good evening, Mayor Pizzolo and Council. Christian Williams, Principal Planner here with Goodyear, and I'm before you this evening with a request from Andrew Yancey to conduct a rezoning on a property within the city. That property we'll be discussing today is 37.43 acres and is located in Estrella on both the northeast and southeast corners of Estrella Parkway and the future San Miguel Eastern Extension. That is located right here. For those of you not as familiar with the Estrella area, San Miguel is about 1 mile south of Elliott Road. Property is within the general plan land use category of neighborhood, and the property is currently zoned Estrella Phase 1 PAD and Estrella 12.36 PAD, which has an underlying zoning equivalent to R16 residential. The other portions of the site are zoned junior high school and commercial. Again, right here, about a mile south of where Elliott Road is today. All right, so zooming in a little closer, you can see that the property is south of the Overlook community of Mountain Ranch and a city-owned well site, right up here. It is east of a power line corridor. It is west of an HOA community park, as well as the Highlands and Cielo communities of Mountain Ranch, and it is north of Acacia Foothills in Mountain Ranch. Again, the site is right here. So for an abbreviated zoning history, the property was originally zoned back in 1987 for a junior high and commercial. In 2019, the northern approximately 18.4 acres was rezoned from commercial to PAD for single family, again, the equivalent of the city's R16. And today the applicant is seeking to rezone the southern portions of that property south of San Miguel from their existing zonings of commercial and junior high school to all R1As or to all R16 with a PAD overlay to facilitate the development of one cohesive single-family community. As a note, the areas in parcel 80 notch that are east of the power line corridors will retain that commercial zoning as well as the power line corridor itself. And that's approximately 5.36 acres of developable commercial east of the power lines. So again, the development seeks to match the entirety of this site as R16 with the PAD overlay to facilitate some modifications. Those modifications would include a maximum lot coverage of 75%, a front garage setback of 18 feet, a minimum rear yard setback of 15 feet, and they would like to increase the open space percentage from 15% to 20%. The minimum lot width in this development would also be 50 foot wide. And based on some topographical challenges, the PAD overlay also clarifies walls and retaining wall standards, as well as enhancements when certain heights are met on those walls, and codifies our position on amenities, connectivity elements, and streetscape elements. To elaborate on that a little bit more, a typical R16 reduced lot would require one amenity element. Being that Estrella already contains 2 community centers with pools and a host of other amenities, so long as those amenities are accessible and available to those residents of this future development, that amenity point will be considered met. The 2 connectivity elements that will be provided with this development will be connections to the trails to the east of it via a DG trail on the south side of San Miguel, and no block shall exceed 660 feet in length. For streetscape elements, typically 2 would be required, but due to the amount of streetscape elements that are already provided within the Estrella community and accessible to this development, the development will pick between either detached sidewalks with street trees, porches, or paver driveways as illustrated in the images on the upper right. And during the February neighborhood meeting, in which 22 residents attended, the city heard concerns about increased traffic, on-street parking, the loss of mountain views, and a loss of the middle school site, as well as concerns for water generally. Following that meeting, the city received 2 resident emails expressing concerns over the rezoning application. Specifically, those emails expressed concerns about the loss of commercial and a desire for open space, as well as dissatisfaction for land use changes generally. Since the publishing of the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting that was held about 10 days ago, the city received emails supporting the development, particularly that it was going to be single-family residential. And Planning and Zoning Commission voted 6-0 to recommend that you approve this zoning case. Staff has evaluated the impacts of this zoning case on the greater community, and with no major concerns being found, we're also recommending approval of this subject to the stipulations. That would rezone the property from the 2 PADs that it is currently within to R16 with a PAD overlay. Of note, this development will be responsible for building out the full street improvements for the San Miguel Eastern Extension and making any modifications to the existing signal that is there to facilitate access into this site. Applicant is here. There is a presentation if you would like to receive it. If not, I'm happy to stand for any planning and zoning related questions you might have.
Thank you. Any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Is the applicant here? Why don't you
He's
hold and
here.
see if we got any questions for you, okay? I'm gonna go ahead and close the public hearing. City Clerk, please read Resolution 2023-2344 by title only.
Adopt resolution number 2023-2344 declaring as public records of certain documents referred to and incorporated by reference in ordinance number 2023-1591 filed with the city clerk related to the rezoning case for Estrella parcels 12.25, 12.36, and 80 Notch.
Thank you. Council, please enter a motion and a second to approve 2023-2344. I see a motion and a second. Open for discussion. First up is Councilmember Laura Thomas.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure if you know the answer or the applicant knows the answer. My understanding is that when it was years ago, when it was for a junior high site, they never developed it, obviously, and they've never built a junior high up there. So there's another, I believe, grade school site up there, correct?
You're absolutely correct. So I did speak with the superintendent of the school district. They're currently not going in the direction of doing that junior high model at this time, but there is another vacant school site within Montecito, just south of the Presidio. There's a site there that could facilitate a K-8 school, and that's about a mile from this site.
Thank you. That was my only question, so thank you.
Councilmember Gillis?
Just curious, how big are these homes? What's the square footage, roughly?
The homes are not decided, but the lots would be a minimum of 50 by 100.
What does that mean?
5,000 square feet.
5,000 square feet.
Yes.
So roughly what size home would fit on that lot?
You could fit anything on, you could fit up home. If it's a 2-story home, you could fit a 2,700 square foot home.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Councilmember Campbell?
I just wanted to thank Mr. Yancey for meeting with me and answering all my questions. So I don't have any questions, but it was a very good presentation, Christian. Thank you.
Councilmember Hampton.
No, thank you, Christian. Councilwoman Loretano asked my question. Thanks.
And for me to close it up there, Christian, you always do an excellent job with your presentation. That's why I say wait till he gets done to see if you have any questions, because Christian's usually good about covering everything. So with that, would you go ahead and open up the voting, please? And Vice Mayor?
I vote aye.
Passes 7-0. Congratulations. With that, let's see. Oh, I guess right. Still got one more. Will the city clerk please read ordinance 2023-1591 by title only?
Adopt ordinance number 2023-1591, conditionally rezoning approximately 37.45 acres of property located at the northeast and southeast corners of Estrella Parkway and San Miguel Drive to be known as Estrella parcels 12.25, 12.36, and 80 Notch, from planned area development pad to planned area development pad zoning district, amending the zoning map of the city of Goodyear, providing for non-abridgment, providing for corrections, providing for severability, providing for an effective date, providing for penalties, and directing the city clerk to record a copy of this ordinance.
Thank you. But you're getting a motion and a second to approve ordinance 2023-1591. I got a motion and a second up on the screen. Any discussion? Seeing none, open up the voting. Vice Mayor?
I vote aye.
Passes 7-0. Thank you. All right, let's see. We have one business item tonight. We'd like to remind council to wait for a motion and a second before discussing. It's to consider approving a resolution to establish criteria for a commercial tourist resort and hotel sign-free zone. That's all a mouthful. What do we got there, Christian?
Good evening. I'm the only thing standing between y'all and watching the ninth inning, so I'll try to be brief here. Before you this evening, to consider the adopting of a resolution pertaining to signs within city right-of-way. So in April 2011, the then governor amended state law to allow municipalities to enforce municipal sign code for political signs placed within city right-of-way within their respective jurisdictions. The law allows cities and towns to create commercial, tourism, resort, and hotel sign-free zones, and those zones are allowed to be a maximum of 3 square miles in size and be contained within a maximum of 2 separate zones. In accordance with state law, staff is proposing 2 zones be created within Goodyear in areas with an abundance of commercial, tourism, retail, and current/future hotel activity. Again, if implemented, this would restrict the placement of political signs in the right-of-way within these boundaries only. Keep in mind this does not impact private property owners and residents from exercising their First Amendment rights in placing political signs on their private property in accordance with city and state laws. So to highlight the zones, the north zone, which is centered on the Civic Square, Estrella Falls, GSQ region, as well as the McDowell Road Entertainment Corridor and other hotel and commerce-rich areas that lead up to Civic Square. The area contains various civic facilities, restaurants, entertainment venues, hotels, and commerce, and this single area is slightly over 1 square mile in size. That would be the north zone. The south zone is centered on the Goodyear Ballpark facility and development complexes, the Goodyear Recreation Campus, and the roads which lead to them. The area includes existing and future retail and bars, as well as civic facilities, planned hotels, and major tourist destinations. This area is slightly over 3/4 of a square mile in size. And with that overview, staff is recommending you adopt the resolution before you today, which will create Goodyear's sign-free zone and be effective within 30 days of the effective date of this ordinance. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Anybody in the audience like to speak? You sure, Benita? You're it. Okay, just checking. I know. All right, will the city clerk please read ordinance 2023-2336 by title only?
Adopt resolution number 2023-2336, authorizing establishing criteria for commercial tourism resort and hotel sign-free zones pursuant to ARS 16-1019F within the city limits of the city of Goodyear and providing an effective date.
City clerk, city council, please enter a motion and a second to adopt resolution 2023-2336. See a motion and a second. Let's open it up for discussion. First up is Councilmember Gillis.
Okay.
Oh, wait, hold on there. Let me hear if I got anything from the vice mayor. Vice mayor?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councilmember Guest.
Okay, so we had problems with this in the last election. So what you're saying is this would be the right-of-way only?
Correct.
That's where they would be?
Correct.
So who is going to deal with it when the signs are where they're not supposed to be?
That would be, the city would remove those signs.
The city will remove them?
Yes,
Because
correct.
we had asked several times last election for somebody to remove them when they ended up on the freeway entrances, which I believe is ADOT, isn't
Correct.
it? And nobody followed through. And they ended up there, and then more people's signs ended up there because they're not supposed to be there. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So then, one person does it, then one person does it, that type of thing. And I think that we really need to establish, and we've been talking about this recently, that if there is one rule made, everybody needs to abide by it. So this is going to be in writing, I assume, and that might seem stupid that I'm saying that, but we really dealt with this last year, and it was bad. So if we're gonna do this, that's the way it's gonna be, correct?
Correct, but I do want to clarify that we don't have jurisdictions for sign removal on the ADOT property.
No, I know that. I already know that. But what do we do, and maybe this is for somebody else out here, what do we do when ADOT doesn't do when we ask them to do and it stays the way it is and it should be done because that's not where they're supposed to be? So what do we do to deal with that? As long as I'm on this, I want to
I'm going to call a friend since it's regarding
That's
ADOT.
totally fine, because I'd like to know.
We can call ADOT and ask them to enforce the sign ban on their property, but we don't have jurisdiction. They're a superior jurisdiction to us, so there's not much we can do. Although if we know it's a problem ahead of time, it might be worth staff coordinating with somebody at ADOT
Right.
before this becomes an issue to say, who do we call? So
Awesome.
it's more, to me, operational, because we recognize we can't do anything or make ADOT do anything.
Yes.
But that's what I would recommend.
And get a name of somebody that we can actually talk to ahead of time, because it was such a problem last time. It was not okay. So that's a really good idea, so whoever needs to know that, can we make sure that that's in there? So we can take care of that ahead of time. We should be taking care of it right now with an election coming up. Okay, so that's what I basically want to know. So it's basically right away only, and then otherwise, if they aren't, then the city will remove them.
Correct, and it's just right of way in those two areas. which
That's
are
great.
there.
That's what I wanted to know. Thanks, Christian.
You're welcome.
Vice Mayor, I just promoted you, Bill. Councilmember Stipp.
Chief flamethrower.
I know.
I saw this, I'm trying to figure out why this is even here. I've never heard of this being an issue that we needed to create a sign-free zone. I think we've overreached in a number of our areas. I think that whole area south of McDowell, I get keeping it away here from Civic Square because of the nature of the ownership, but south of McDowell is not our jurisdiction. The same thing around the ballpark. I don't even know if I have a question in any of this. I'm just not understanding it. I'm not understanding why this all of a sudden is a big deal that we need to start limiting. We need to start limiting the campaign signs. So, and what is? Well, okay, well, that's a different story. I guess the name of it is throwing me off if we're talking about tourism and we're trying to embark on a tourism thing with sports tourism and all the rest of that. Now we're going to start killing the signage. There just seems to be a lot of potholes in this. Sorry, Chris, for the analogy. There's just a lot of potholes in this that are leaving a lot of blanks for me. So I may be the only one who doesn't vote in favor of it, but I guess I needed more background information than was originally provided. So no question. I'll just get off the
Good?
soapbox.
All right.
Thanks.
Councilmember Hampton?
Yeah, I wanted to verify, is this only targeting political signs?
Yes, that is correct. Political signs are the only sign category that's allowed to go up during certain timelines. So this would not impact somebody coming to the city with a comprehensive sign package, or if you're a resident or a business owner in that area and you want to put a sign on your private property or in your window, it doesn't impact any of that. It's just signs in the roadway right of way.
Yeah, I don't know why this is I'm on board with Councilmember Stipp. I don't understand why we have this either. I mean, I don't see an issue. I don't want to stop free speech and the people that are putting up their signs. So I'll probably be a no vote on this too.
Councilmember Campbell?
I think it's a good idea, because those signs look so trashy when you put 25 signs out there and they're putting in front of each other and tying on to each other, and it really looks kind of crummy. So I'm glad not to have it around City Hall, especially since we're going to be opening new businesses. And some of the businesses aren't necessarily going to be totally opened in '24 when we have the next election. So I think this is a great idea, but I just want to be sure that if this passes, that every candidate that has pulled papers now will get a copy of this ordinance, because I don't want them not to know that they have these. But we're not the only city doing these. There's lots of cities that are doing this because they're tired of the clutter. And you know, once the election's over, because it's our city, we take our signs down, but nobody else does. They just walk away and leave them, or they put them up the week before when they're not eligible to put them up, and it's like they thumb their nose at us. So I'm a yes vote. And I'm not running again, so it doesn't matter.
Councilmember Lorentano?
Can you put up where this is again, the little map with the purple and the red?
Yes, it's, oh.
Well, it
Megan
was
is
up, wasn't it? Yeah.
Phoning a friend, there we go.
Oh, it's not on mine. Oh, here we go. Okay, so what I'm looking at here is that we've really centered it around the city property, like our property, and then our developmental district around here, which is anchored by our property and our park. So I think it is narrow enough for me that people can still have free speech, and they can still put it up and then where they want to. But that is one of the biggest complaints. I thank you for bringing this. And again, I'm not running. I don't have a sign to put up anywhere. So
You don't have a sign in this fight?
I don't have a sign. My husband used all my signs for leftover signs for oil for the car. So what do you want from me? So I guess for me, it's the biggest complaint I get from residents is it looks junky. And I think what Councilmember Campbell brought up was we will take our signs down because they know where to find us. But months later, especially this is going to be a statement nationwide. The people from the other offices, like the statewide offices, like months later, they'll be blowing around. You know, we get a monsoon and they don't come and take care of them. And so it really does make our property, whatever property they're on, it really looks bad and it starts to hinder traffic. And so I am a yes vote for this. I think it's narrowly tailored enough to enhance our areas and our development, but still let people have the free speech rights that they need to have and to get their message out. Thank you.
The purple, what boundary, where's Bullard on there? Can you point that out?
Sure. I will zoom in really quickly here. Bullard Avenue is this roadway here.
Okay, so there'd be nothing on Bullard south of 10.
Between Encanto and Van Buren Street, there is a hotel complex down Celebration Life Way, and we do know there are some tourists.
So there'd be nothing on Bullard at all, it looks like?
Just between Encanto Boulevard and Van Buren.
It's all.
Say that again, Encanto and what?
Encanto on the north and Van Buren on the south.
Okay, so nothing there, okay. And then the other one is, what's the street there to the other side?
This is Estrella Parkway.
Okay.
There's a hotel complex in here, so it's just restricted in front of the Walmart, Saddle Mountain Brewery Hotel complex.
Okay.
But they don't have
And then the other one that you had, you're going farther down Estrella Parkway, right? The pink,
Oh, the other map?
yeah.
Basically from the recreation campus to
The ballpark.
Elwood, ballpark area.
Okay.
Bullard ends at Yuma Road.
Okay. All right.
Makes sense.
Now I lost my place on there. Okay, yeah, You know what, I don't think it was a problem until they moved us all to August.
Yeah.
And the problem is now we're all on the state as well as the local, and they put us all on the same thing. You got tons of signs out there.
And the
So,
legislature's all running too.
yeah, and the legislature is running, and, you know, so, and then you got county, so for me, you know, anything we can do to cut some of this stuff down along those lines. There's still plenty of places in the city to put a sign.
Yep.
But I'm with Councilmember Gillis, we gotta talk to the people at ADOT, because people were violating that, and they didn't do squat. So, we need to have somebody on staff, make sure we contact them, try to get a contact, all right, to get that squared away, but I'm fine there. Now, where did we got we're doing, oh, go ahead, Councilmember Hampton.
No, I appreciate you putting together those lines there. I feel it takes away all of the main corridors where people are gonna be at, so.
No, the Litchfield Road's wide open. Litchfield and McDowell, and Litchfield and Indian School, they're all open.
A few of them,
Yeah.
so, okay. That's just making that comment, so.
All right, I'm trying to place, where are we at now?
We need
Also
to
place
vote.
all the discussion, where?
We need to vote.
Open the vote. Vice Mayor?
I vote aye.
Passes 5-2. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see, what else? Clerk, please open the vote. We're there. Okay, we're good. Now, does the council have any comments or commendations or anything they want to bring up? We good? Well, Councilmember Campbell and Hampton? Yeah, no.
This is an inquiry to the
guys want-
city manager, please. I got a concern Thursday and then Saturday from two different people that work at the UPS plant, and apparently they go to work around 4 in the morning, and when they're coming down 303 to Indian School, from Thomas to Indian School, there's a horrible smell or odor in the air, and I'm wondering if it's Fairlife milk.
Oh, okay. We'll check on it.
Would you? Thank you very much. That's it.
Go ahead.
I just had a request for a work session, around, I'm trying to think which one I want to go for.
Do them all.
So around sports tourism and what that would look like for dedicated space in Goodyear. So I just want staff to review that for us and then bring it to us.
Anybody else?
Isn't that a strategic planning thing?
I don't know if the scope is what I'm looking for or the timing of it either.
We're gonna talk about it. We got it.
We're
It's in
gonna-
the strategic plan. Now, is that your question and your ask? Because when we met, you had something else in mind.
So it's going to be talked about?
But right now, your request is in the strategic plan, which would be fiscal year '26, that we would have to have that evaluated and brought forth back to council.
Yeah, but I'd like to maybe look at it sooner, because I think that we're gonna miss out on an opportunity if we wait till 2026 to even start the review process.
Then we can come back and ask council what they would like to move out of 25 to 26 and move 26 up.
Okay, we can make that a work session then, so, just because we talked about it, doesn't mean we can't change it, so.
No, it's a planning thing.
Yeah.
What's the process of doing that?
New process for all of us, so I will figure it out, and I acknowledge, I
Okay.
don't know if it's a work session, it is a conversation as to what we want to move in and out of those 2 years.
So we still have to have that discussion.
Yes.
Does that sound right, Bill?
Yeah, the plan's coming back before us, right?
Yeah.
So whatever, can we roll it all into that discussion? So
I don't
we do
know.
a separate meeting on that?
I'm just worried that we're gonna miss an opportunity if we just let the process work
When's the
for
plan-
what
when's the
we're,
plan-
for
when's
what
the
we're
plan
looking
coming
at.
back for us?
November 13th,
Okay,
it will
November
come
13th.
back for your approval, and at that time, what Councilmember Stipp is saying, we can adjust that to, we can have that discussion then.
Okay.
Okay, November 13th.
Instead of a special work session.
Okay, yeah, I don't know what the mechanism is. I just want to look at it, review it, and see if that's a possibility to move forward. And then the second one was, this might be in there too, so I don't know, something around expanding or the lease for the BMX. I'm not sure if that needs to be a work session or not. I know that's something that some other council people were curious about, so I'm not sure how
Is that in
to.
there?
how to put that, if that's another strategic planning thing, or if that's something separate,
It would
or
be
what
some,
that looks like.
it could be under facilities, it could be under the tourism, so let us discuss that and get back to you on. 'Cause-
I'm not sure.
Nathan, is it in the Parks Master Plan? Oh, okay. So we can get him the information? Yeah. Good,
Okay.
good question, thank you.
Okay, good questions.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Since we're talking about work sessions, I'm very interested in having a work session on our legislative desires or what we see as a council are our priorities in the legislature. Like, Pebble Creek needs a sound wall. We're not addressing it. And we need to address it through the legislature. And we've also got other issues, and we know we've got the bridge to worry about. But this council has never been asked, what is your legislative priority? We get something presented to us, and then we vote for it, yes or no, but we never have a conversation on what we feel we need to move forward on to protect the city. And that's, I think it's really important. I think we need to have that conversation because we're not as active on stuff like that as other cities are that are more successful in getting their things through the legislature.
Okay.
And that's just my take.
Don't we typically have that right before our discussion before January?
We have the presentation
It's just a
from,
presentation, so
But
it's
we
done.
can, we can add to that. But I can tell you, they're 400 million short this year.
I
So
know.
if we're gonna ask for any money for anything, probably chances are very slim.
I know.
So, but we could probably talk about with that presentation, if there's anything in there we don't necessarily. Does
during
make
that,
sense?
during that presentation, yes, sir.
Okay.
Because if we don't do something, I'm tired of people asking us why we're not doing something. I was at a meeting for 2.5 hours this morning at Pebble Creek, and I got beat up because we're not doing anything about them not having a sound wall.
I don't, yeah.
I did, Bill, but that doesn't do any good. You can't pass the buck.
I be honest with you, Wally, I think getting that sound wall is gonna be very difficult, because it probably should have gone up when they built 303.
Well, we could have done it if we'd have run a bill last year because they did take another community in the Mesa area that they took a bill through and it went through the state budget and it was funded for a sound wall with the exact problems that Pebble Creek has, that community had. It was built after the road came through. So it's just, if nothing else, when we talk about it,
We can
then
give it a
we're
shot.
we're trying to solve our residents' problems. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
We need to be responsive to the residents.
Well, when we do the presentation, all right, for what's going on at the legislature, that's when we can talk about it. We'll get that in there at that point. We want to push this.
So whatever. It'll,
But-
because she'll come forward, or whoever it is, they've done it every year with what the legislative priorities are gonna be, because they get together as intergovs and they decide what they
Yeah, but we
think
can
we
add
go
to that.
forward.
There's nothing that says we
So-
can't add to that.
Okay,
Okay?
we'll see.
Is that correct, Manager?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
thanks.
All right. The only thing I would like to add for the manager, and where's Jimmy, is Jimmy, that Bullard, they had that accident there at Indian School in Bullard today. They're not paying any attention to that slow down sign. Can you set a couple motors there, or a motor there on that sign that says slow down on Bullard? Huh? No, it was at Indian School in Bullard. There was a
No.
nasty accident there. It looked like somebody T-boned somebody at the intersection. But where they're slowing down, where that sign says please slow down, they ain't slowing down. So, yeah. There was they're not slowing down through there. So you get somebody with a motor sitting there, so that would be nice. All right, city manager, what you got?
I'm gonna make this short. Diamondbacks lost 3-1.
Ah.
And World Series Game 1 watch party out at the ballpark. We had 125 attendees there. They really appreciated that. Make a Difference Day, we had over 200 volunteers donating 800 hours of service, which equals to a value of $26,000 saved to the city. So that's it for me.
Yeah, I was impressed with that only because, you see all this bad news and stuff at the colleges and everything going on. And we had 300 young people, and some adults obviously, but they're showing up for this. So I was really impressed how many people in our community showed up for that, And the Halloween, how many people showed up for the Halloween event Saturday? So, you know, I mean, regardless of what you see on the news, there's just a lot of good things going on out there in our community right now. So, kudos to the community.
I'm sorry, I forgot that. It was on the second page. We had actually over 9,000 in attendance at the Fall Festival.
Yeah. And the clown, whew, I'm glad, yeah, that was a little scary. All right, with that, next meeting, November 13th. No further business. The meeting is adjourned. Oh, yeah, he was.